And we are live! Gotta change it up every now and then. Live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 39 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. My name's Dave McRae. Well, there we go.
I'm
there.
This way.
Yeah,
this way.
that way. Yeah, whatever it is. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And, we're talking some Friday the 13th parts 1 through 4 today. Tony, how the hell are you?
Dude, I'm doing good. How was your Friday the 13th that just passed here?
My Friday the 13th. Well, you see, this is the thing. Tony and I were talking about this. I had every intention on trying to make this Friday or this past Friday work. We were going to try and pop on and do a little surprise Friday the 13th, Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Unfortunately, the prior commitments I had, of course, I had to take care of, so we were unable to do that. So, but it was all right. I didn't get a chance to watch any Friday the 13th movies, but I think you did. I think you posted.
Oh, man.
I think you had a marathon or something.
I do. Not a marathon. I just had it was probably the best Friday the 13th ever. Never be topped again. I went to the filming location for part 6. I thought that would be a nice treat for people on Instagram. So I was sharing
I
some
saw that
footage,
you got some drone shots.
Shots of the campground for where they filmed part 6. I went to the hot spots because I knew I had a small window to be out there. And I went to the cabin where all the kids were at, and Jason walks up to Nancy and, leans over her. Went to Paula's cabin, went to the dock, obviously, where Tommy and Jason have the showdown.
Right.
And, it was cool. It was just like an improv thing that I wanted to do, and, gave it to everyone on Instagram stories as kind of like a little exclusive, Friday the 13th thing. And then, I came back home, and I only watched part 1 and part 2. But the crazy thing was towards the end of part 1, a thunderstorm came.
Ooh.
So I'm like, okay, so I've got a full moon because we had that harvest, whatever moon it was. Okay. And then a thunderstorm comes in on Friday the 13th. I'm like, this is it. There's no way it's ever going to get better than this. All the elements you would want happen in one day. So it was good. To me, Friday the 13th, I've always said it's like Christmas Eve. Like Halloween is our Christmas day. Friday the 13th is like that Christmas Eve. It's not quite as cool as Halloween, but it's fun.
Right. I got you. Yeah, no, I didn't watch any of the Friday the 13th movies on Friday the 13th. However, I did recently, I'd say within the last, I guess over the summer at some point, I watched all the Friday the 13th movies. Well, no, that's not true. I watched, pretty much all of them. The first 8, which is essentially the series minus Jason Goes to Hell and Jason in Space. And to this day, I gotta... Yeah, I know.
Went down the wrong pipe.
Oh, I thought you were... Well, hey, Jason in Space will do that to anybody. So, Yeah. No, I gotta say, and maybe to be fair, maybe it's a bit of nostalgia talking. There is some of that there, of course, but I gotta say, when I watch, it's not like the Friday the 13th movies are good movies. Let's be fair. I mean, they're not great movies, but when I watched the first 4 Friday the 13th films, and I did watch them back to back. I think I watched the first one, the second one, and then the next night I watched the third one and the fourth one. And if you follow me on social media, you'll probably remember this. It was about, a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago, when I posted a couple of the Friday the 13th shots.
Right.
That I was watching. And I gotta say, watching 1, 2, 3, 4... and then 5, I actually don't hate 5, but 5 is that interruption, and when I watch 1 to 4, it feels like the series to me. And then when you get to 6, I know 6 is a fan favorite. I understand that.
It's third in my list of the franchise.
There you go. And we talked about 6 on this channel a couple of weeks ago
right,
when we were comparing, the fan favorites where you have Dream Warriors, in Elm Street, and of course, Jason Lives. But I gotta say, I understand the appeal. I do. I get it. But it's a very different feel to that movie as opposed to the first 4. And the first 4 feel like the series to me. It just does. I really have very little interest. I have to be honest with you. I have very little interest, 6 included, although if I was going to watch a later film, it would be 6. But I don't give a I just watched Jason Takes Manhattan. Oh my God.
I can't believe you put yourself through that.
Oh, it's terrible. It's just awful. I gotta think of anyways, we're not here to talk about that, but fuck, I don't give a shit about those movies. It's 1 to 4 for me.
I totally get what you're saying, because like you were saying before the stream started, you talked about how as you get older, your taste changes. And for me, you know, really, the first 2, you know what I mean? Like the first two really have everything that you want, the mood and atmosphere that you talk about.
Yeah.
Even though the 2 films were shot, one was in New Jersey, the other was in Connecticut, it looks like it's at the same location. Everything really feels like it's all together. 3, when I committed to watching 3 the other day, I was like, this thing fucking blows. Like 3 for me, the only thing that is good with 3 is you get the hockey mask, and that's it. But it's like so bad, and we'll get into it here in a moment, because I wrote down some shit that I was like, this is but I get what you're saying, you know, because when it comes to me with 6, if I'm going to watch anything outside of the first 2, I'm probably going to watch 6, you know, and that's pretty much going to be it for me. I'll never watch anything past 6. Even though I own up to 7, I won't spend my money on 8, 9, and 10 or anything like that. Like, I have no desire, unless you come at me and say, dude, let's talk Jason Takes Manhattan tonight, then I'm going to have to fucking rent it. But that literally will be it. You know, to me, that's like the Halloween resurrection part of the franchise.
Oh, yeah. It's awful.
I won't own it, won't watch it, won't buy it unless you tell me we're doing a stream on it.
I mean, even the whole idea of Jason Takes Manhattan and the fact that, you know, I mean, it was shot in Vancouver, okay? And as a Canadian, I can certainly tell. I can see the mountains in the background, and I'm like, well, since when did Crystal Lake have these mountains? And since when was Crystal Lake, was there any part of the lake
connected to New York?
Connected to New York?
Not even New York, the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, I'm just, what the fuck is this? No, it's fucking stupid is what it is. It's stupid. No, it's dumb. It's dumb. Anyway, we're here to talk about the first 4, and because that is what I consider the series.
Did you call them out? That's what she said.
I have the original Friday the 13th on VHS, but not with this cover. So I just busted out this old DVD. I picked this DVD up. This is from this DVD is from 1999. That's that DVD there. And so because I love that. That to me is the, you know, quintessential Friday the 13th cover of the original movie. And then of course there's a DVD there. But so a lot of people who watch my channel know how I feel about the first Friday the 13th. It is actually my favorite in the franchise. And that doesn't mean I don't love me some Jason. I do. But it's my favorite in the franchise because of that psychological component that I talk about. Again, the component. I'm not saying it's a psychological horror movie. It's not. It's a clear, bona fide slasher film. Yeah. But there's a psychological component in there that I thought was fun. And I can only imagine how much fun that would have been for the viewing audience watching the movie in 1980. Of course, I was only, we were only 1, so obviously we weren't in the theater watching it.
You know what's crazy, though? I was talking with one of our great, she's been a great contribution to this channel, is Joanna from Canada. And she pops up on our channel from time to time. We were talking about this the other day on my Jason picture, the one that I posted. And she was a teenager back in the early 80s watching this. And I got to tell you, man, if you were 14 years old when 1980 hit, I envy you, because you guys got
real estate.
You really, man, like you think about it, 14 to, up to like through the mid 80s, you're your late teens, early 20s. We were kids, so we knew what was going on, but we didn't appreciate it like you could have as a teenager. And I envy Joanna and anybody who was that age who got to experience all this, not just Friday, but Nightmare and all the other films. You're seeing this for the first time. You're experiencing it. You're the teenager going into the cinema to watch this. And I'm like, man, I would have loved to have just been around during that run.
100%.
Horror movies.
Oh, 100%. That's one of the things I often, say that I was so fortunate, even though I was born in 1979. So I was just on the, the cusp of the 80s there. I had older siblings. So I had a sister who in 1980 was 10, 11, 12, 13, was 16.
Yeah.
I have a sister that's 15 years older than me and two brothers that are 11 and 9 years older than me. And believe it or not, folks, I was not the mistake. But anyway, because that's the first thing. I guess you were a mistake. No, actually, I was planned. But anyway, so I forget which one was an oops, but one of them was an oops. A happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. But that's what was so great. So when I was, say, in 1985, we would have been 6, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but in 1985, I had a sister that was 21. I had, a brother that was 19 and a brother that was, or not 19, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, like 17 and 15 or something like that. So, I had older siblings that were teenagers that they made me appreciate these things on a very sort of adult level, which was really, really cool. So I remember the 80s. I mean, not like somebody who maybe was 20, but
Sure.
I remember it quite well, and because I used to get into all the shit that they were into, right? Because I was so young, so they got me into that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, it would have been an amazing time, but that psychological component essentially is the mystery of the antagonist. We don't know who it is. And there's many moments in that movie where they mask the identity being female by actually having stand-ins as males, right? So when you see the legs or things like that, or a hand, or whatever it is, like a ring on the hand, it's a male's hand or it's male's feet or whatever, because they were trying
Correct
to
me if I'm wrong. Wasn't that Tom Savini's hand at the end coming up doing this when the head gets? Was it Tom's hand? I know he does the makeup and the effects, but I can't remember if was it Tom's hands or like his assistant.
Yes, it was. It was his hands. Now, by that time, we already know it's Pamela and, the cat's out of the bag. But there were other moments, I don't know with him, but there were other moments throughout that movie where they tried to disguise it being a woman, because obviously Pamela, would have had very feminine features and hands and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I love that component of the fact that, we're and it's so dark. It's such a low budget horror film, and it's so dark and claustrophobic, and they're out in the rain and there's a thunderstorm and you only see where your flashlight is pointed, and it's got that real, it's just a creepy movie in and of itself. And then you add, of course, the which of course sounds like cha-cha-cha, ha-ha-ha. But you add that's eerie. I mean, think of it. In 1980, that's the first time we hear that. So it's an eerie feeling. I mean, when you watch this movie and there's that not opening shot, but I guess, it is one of the first shots.
Where at the campground?
Where I think it's 1954. 8. Okay. Yeah. Where it's the POV shot of Pamela going into the cabin, and you see the children sleeping, right? And you can actually see them. There are actually kids there, and you hear, and you hear that great score by what's his name? Manfredi. Yeah, just a great. It's a genuinely eerie sound. Genuinely, even today in 2019, it's a very eerie sound. And of course, the whole idea of the counselor in the bed and it's raining and you hear, outside, help me. I mean, and then when you clue in by the end of the movie that obviously that's not, Betsy Palmer doing that, but it you're led to believe that was actually Jason Voorhees' mom in the rain, sounding like a little girl. I mean, this is borderline Billy from Black Christmas shit. You know what I mean? Where she's like out there sounding like she's 12. Like, what the fuck is, like, the whole concept of that alone is frightening. That there's a 50-something-year-old woman out in the bushes and building, help me, mommy, kill her, mom. It's just, and you don't know any of what the fuck is going on until the end of the film. Is it a little dated now? Sure. Are there some parts where it's a little boring? Sure. But I think it's I don't
find anything boring about the original film. The only reason why everything you're saying is literally how I feel about the first two films. And the only reason why I personally give 2 the slightest edge is because of Amy Steele.
Yeah.
That's the only fucking reason I give it.
I guess
like when I say it's better than the first, it's not even the both films rival each other because of everything you just said. Because that was one of the notes I took, like where you talked about the scene there in both films when it's nighttime. It's nighttime. It's not stage lighting nighttime.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's eventually where the franchise goes to, where it's that fake like moonlight shit, which is like no.
Well, it's oversaturated.
Way oversaturated, and you're so spot on with that. So that's actually funny that you're saying the same shit that I pretty much wrote down on what I really love about that first film.
Oh yeah, it's great. I guess when I mean boring is that there's a I take that back. I should be more specific. There's a few moments in the movie that are there to create suspense. There's a particular moment when Adrienne King's character is in the kitchen and she's making herself something on the stove or whatever it was, and she's walking around. I've always felt that the scene drags a little bit. And so there's certain moments like that, but overall, the film stands on its own.
Do you know why she gets killed in the second one? Because everyone always complains about how she gets killed in the second film.
Well, why she got killed is because she didn't want.
This is fun trivia, though. I'm testing.
I believe she was she didn't want to be in anymore because she had a stalker. She developed a stalker after the first Friday the 13th, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That is correct. However, I'm going to go by the rules that Randy gave us in Scream, which is don't do drugs, don't have sex, and never say I'll be right back. If you remember the scene that her character is playing Monopoly, she comes up and takes a little puff off that joint, which permanently sealed her fate that she was going to die someday.
Someday at the hands of Jason Voorhees. Oh, and by the way, I think Jason has always been supernatural. Oh, did Dave just say that? Oh, yeah. No, he didn't. Oh, yes, he did. We'll talk about that too.
Boy.
But so that, like, in a nutshell, that's sort of how I feel about it. I mean, I could go on and on, but, for the sake of time, and I want you to get, in here too with your thoughts on it. That's why it's sort of, I kind of have a soft spot for that first movie because it's got a lot of really good rewatch value because of that mystery, genuinely creepy atmosphere and music. It's just, and the whole psychological, like that, I just gotta say this again, like that moment when, one of the counselors is in the bathroom there and she looks over and she looks down that little hallway towards the stalls where the curtain is.
Yeah.
Right? And you see that little hand and the hand just kind of goes like this on the other side of the curtain. Like, it's just, and at this point watching the movie, if you've never seen, you don't know what the fuck is going on. Right. It's like, what the fuck is it? And just that shot, the lighting and the exposure and how it's dimly lit. There's a lot of mood and atmosphere, just the whole thing. I just think it's splendidly creepy, the first Friday the 13th movie. So, so your thoughts on that first film?
Everything you said, I mean, you hit it right on the nail. The mood, the atmosphere, I could be, repeating here what you said. I don't know for sure if everything was shot in ambient light, but it certainly felt like that. So even if it was some form of artificial lighting, if they were going for that ambient tone, they fucking nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. I would probably be willing to bet most of those scenes were ambient light. Like if it was a flashlight, that's probably what they did. They lit the scene with that flashlight and there was nothing else. Because you could tell just how it goes into just complete blackness behind the characters and whatnot. And that's, an indication if you shot anything, it doesn't matter if you're a pro or an amateur, when you take a picture of something that's lit at night, you're going to get the shot that's lit. And then anything else behind it, it's going to fall into complete blackness. So
100%. Yeah, no, it's they would have had, there's a couple of shots when they're running through the woods. You can see some light sort of in the distance lighting the horizon or something like that. So they probably had a generator or two out there with a few lights, but it's certainly not, it's certainly not overexposed and it's
no.
It's very dark.
One of the things that I actually picked up this is first time after seeing this film, I don't know how many fucking times I've seen this. The little sign behind me, the Camp Crystal Lake sign that's up there on my wall.
Yeah.
Which in my mind, I thought was first introduced in part 2 when Sandra picks it up off the ground and her and Jeff are looking at it.
Right.
When they're going up to the counselor training center. There's a shot when Mrs. Voorhees is driving in the Jeep. Well, I don't know if it's Pamela Voorhees, Betsy Palmer driving the Jeep. whoever's driving the Jeep with Alice, okay, and they drive past the entranceway of the campground, you see the mailbox. Well, juxtaposed to the mailbox, there's a tree that has that sign on it. And I never fucking noticed it all these years.
Wow, I don't think I have either.
If you go to that scene and watch the scene again, you'll see the little sign that's hanging up behind me that actually is, because I always thought it was the other sign, you know, the yellow one that you see.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I always thought that was it, but I caught that. I was like, wait a second. I had to like do a double take and rewind it. And I saw that. I was like, motherfucker, I've never even noticed that all these years, you know? So yeah, it's that scene when they just pass the campgrounds, or Mrs. Voorhees driving Alice, and then Alice is like, I think it's back there. And then she jumps out, and, you know, the rest is history with her character.
Fascinating. I'm going to have to watch the movie again and check that out.
Yeah,
because
it's funny,
interesting.
Man. You pick up on things that you never pick up on after all these years. You're like, oh shit, well, that happened. Like, for example, when rewatching part 3 again, I totally fucking forgot about the beginning where Jason's laying on the fucking floor and it's the POV shot and he's still in the overalls and shit and he starts crawling away. I totally fucking forgot about that scene because I don't watch part 3 that much. I'm going to be honest with you. When I watched it here the other day, that's the first time I probably watched it in years. Yeah. I mean, a really long time. So I'm like, oh shit, that happened. I totally fucking, forgot about that.
That's interesting.
So, but yeah, everything with 1 and 2 really, because both films, they very much mirror each other. They did a great job in a sequel to keeping that suspense you're talking about, the guessing game of who this person is that's doing all this killing. Even though Paul gives his little speech, around the campfire and shit about Jason still being out there, never finding his body, yada, 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 you as the viewer are starting to kind of put it all together like, okay. But the mystery of who this character looks like and keeping that suspense build up until the end there where you see him pop up from the sheets. And that's the first time you're seeing Sackhead Jason. That is very hard to do, to deliver it in a sequel that you just did in the first film and keeping that guessing game. And they did it so well. But yeah, in the first film, Kevin Bacon, this obviously was,
what the hell's I was to tell you, the money shot in that movie is his sawed off boner is what it is. Like, what the hell is that? It's sawed off.
I don't know.
I don't get it. Like, did
probably why he didn't talk about the movie for a long time.
I just don't understand. Like, it literally look. I mean, as a Canadian, obviously, I was and as a teenager, I played hockey. Not too many Canadian teenage boys don't, although there are a lot of them that don't. But it looks like he's got a jock on, like a jock strap. Although I guess you wear jocks when you play football and basketball. I don't know about basketball, but certainly the contact sports. Sure. You definitely play. So, but so it looks like he's got a jock on. It's like, what the fuck? Like it almost was like, wait a minute. Kevin saw the monitor and didn't like that his package wasn't bulging. So he was like, if we do it again, I just want to shove this, whatever. And maybe he accidentally took something that had lip balm in it or something and he put it down there. And now there's like this little hard piece of plastic. It just looks fucking weird. But anyway, money shot for sure. Some great, just some genuinely, it's I think my favorite scenes in that first film are the stall scene with the axe and shit like that, and just that,
like
help me, mommy,
the intentional of hitting the lamp on the axe to show you that it was a real axe. Oh, right. To make you think it was a real axe.
Yeah, exactly. And to cause the light to swing back and forth.
That was a very cool creative effect.
It was, which then causes commotion, and you can play with light and shadow. And gives you the excuse then to not see everything clearly because the light's going back and forth, which is brilliant. Absolutely, 100%.
Favorite kill? Would you say it was the axe?
The axe is good. The axe, because I'm gonna I forget the guy's name now. What the fuck was the guy's name? The guy that ended up on the back of the door. I'll take him out of it because we don't actually see him get killed. I'll say the axe is probably my favorite. Yeah, and Mrs. Voorhees going down like a champ, getting her head cut off was pretty awesome too. But
Bacon's death scene was all right. The throat.
Bacon's death is great. Yeah, that's iconic.
Through the neck. It is pretty. I mean, it is pretty iconic. The arrow through the neck. That's a good kill scene.
And all practical, which is great.
That's the thing about that I do in the same with the second film. It's all practical effects, no CGI. Just old school, roughneck filmmaking, and you got to appreciate everything that Cunningham did. And what's his name? Victor Miller? Is that who wrote the script?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that franchise is now where it's at. I wish those guys would just get their shit together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, back in 1980, I would have loved to have been in the theater when the reveal for Mrs. Voorhees, you know what I mean? Like to see what the audience reaction would have been like. Because the cool thing about that moment when Alice sees Mrs. Voorhees and she runs up, who are you? There's almost a sense of calm for a brief moment. Because
the sense of relief.
Right, that this woman could be doing all this shit.
Well, that's why it works, right? Because you don't expect it to be a woman. So it works. And that's why it was so important that anytime you did show the killer in terms of his legs or, a hand or whatever it is, that it looked more masculine than it actually was, to hide the identity. I mean, Friday the 13th, in a sense, although a far inferior film to John Carpenter's Halloween on all sorts of levels, especially philosophically, which Carpenter has, a lot of layers there. It too was intended to be a one-off, and Cunningham didn't return for the sequel because he was like, again, there's no more to tell. Yeah, but what about Jason? Yeah, but Jason was never set up to be an antagonist. He was the catalyst that drove Mrs. Voorhees' anger for revenge. Yeah. And the whole idea of having him come out of the lake at the end was just to, again, plant that seed of doubt into the viewers' minds of whether or not she dreamt it or she didn't dream it, but it was never meant to go anywhere.
Sure.
But, of course, Friday the 13th was hugely successful, and a sequel was made. And they were like, well, what can we do? Because we can't bring back Pamela Voorhees because she's dead. Although, if that movie was released today, they'd find out a way. No, at the last second, it wasn't Pamela Voorhees.
She swapped herself out with the EMT guy.
That's right. Somebody was on the beach, and they just came up in the exact same sweater. And it just by accident, Anyway, but in 1981, only a year later, Friday the 13th Part 2 was released. And this is arguably one of the best in the series, for sure. This is more of the same, but it feels like, it is more of the same, but it does feel like a natural, acceptable continuation for what Friday the 13th is at the end of the day.
There's a lot of good creepy elements to Part 2. One, I think it's got the best kill in the entire franchise, which is Mark's death in the wheelchair going down. And
that's fantastic.
To me, it doesn't get any better than that. That is throughout, and I've seen them all, out of every kill up through Jason X. His death is just like spot on. Just not even just the way Jason does it, just the whole visual aspect. The rain coming down as he's falling backwards and going all the way down the stairs. You get that fast zoom in up to him and then a freeze frame. Just such a fucking great shot and an iconic shot in the franchise. But yeah, I always have this debate with people, and look, I get it. There is a huge fan base for Jason in the hockey mask. And I'm not saying that you are wrong for liking Jason in the hockey mask, but to be honest with you, every time I see him in the hockey mask, and I'm not trying to steal a line from Freddy versus Jason, but he does look like a pissed off goalie. You know what I mean? Like, just like if I saw a dude coming at me in the woods with a hockey mask, that size, yes, I'm going to be afraid because of the size, but I'm also going to be like, why is this fucker coming after me with a fucking hockey mask on? Versus if I see a dude coming at me with a sack on with only one fucking eye, and now I'm seeing it as like, I don't know why he only has one eye showing. That to me is just already fucking creepy to begin with. Like, this dude is not playing with a full fucking deck. Why has he got a sack over his head? And why the fuck does he only have one eye peeping through? That's what I love about Jason in Part 2. He's got a bit of innocence to him, childlike mind as well. And I play a lot off of that into my photographs. Like when I decorated Jason's lair, my version of Jason's lair in the abandoned trailer, I put up all these like old candy boxes and hung them on the wall, because in my mind, that's how I feel Jason would be like. He wouldn't hang up shit that you and I would normally hang up, you know, like pictures and stuff. He would hang up just the most oddest fucking thing, because he was this hermit living out in the fucking woods and just this really fucking creepy dude. And that's why I've always made the case that, to me, the creepiest version of Jason is part 2. I'm not saying he's the strongest. I'm not saying he's the most badass. I'm saying he's the most creepiest when you look at it from that perspective. But I take nothing away for those who are the fans of the hockey mask version of him.
Yeah, Friday the 13th, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with it. You know, Friday the 13th Part 2 for me is interesting because after you watch Part 1, you do feel that the story is done. And you sort of, I know there's that shocking ending, but they play it, you know, in a way that is dreamlike and you know, isn't it? So when you begin to watch Part 2, if you know nothing about the series, you know, from that point of view, it's like, well, what are they going to do? You know, what is this going to be about? And you obviously begin to realize that it's about Jason, who has survived, and you still really don't know if what Adrienne King's character, Alice, right? That's her name? Yeah. You know, what Alice experienced at the end of Friday the 13th Part 1, if that actually happened. Because if it did happen, you would assume that the cops on the shoreline there would have seen it, because they're clearly out of the cruisers.
Right.
They're standing on the shoreline. Alice is, you know, playing in the water, kind of going like this, and all of a sudden, you know, it's like the cops would have seen it. They're standing right there. This is a lake, not an ocean.
Sure.
You know, and they're standing right there. So we never really find out, which is good, actually, in some ways. And I think in reality, I think Cunningham meant for it to end, Miller meant for it to be, I don't know if it's a dream, but a hallucination. A dream, yeah, that she was sort of having, and she wakes up in the hospital. Now, whether she was actually ever on the lake, who knows? I mean, we see her kind of go out there, but I think it was in its original intent was, no, that actually never really happened. That was supposed to be a dream, and the climactic moment frightens her awake and she's in the hospital. So at the beginning of Part 2, when Jason suddenly finds himself in some urban area, which I just find it's the one area that I find a little weird.
I agree. That is the weakest point. I mean, like in the original, there's some weak points as well, but yes, that is definitely one of the.
Well, it is.
Why did we do this?
I know it's the
I just felt like there was no need to bring her back. You know, there was. No. I understand that they won't. I get why, but there really was no need to do it and have that scene in the movie. I get you. I totally agree on that.
So, I mean, there was really no need to bring her back. I think it was ultimately to, you know, kind of acknowledge that we still love you, even though we're going in a different direction because of the choices that, have had to be made here. But at the end of the day, it's weird and out of place. I mean, you should have had her maybe at the campground or close by, driving along the road at night, and she's attacked out of the bushes or something. Like, I mean, something that keeps Jason in the elements, because it is a little strange to say, itsy bitsy spider, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, Jason puts his foot in the puddle and he starts walking to this home, this home that looks like it's down the street from me or something. I mean, it's just so weird, I
gotta tell you, I have so much fond memories of that scene of the itsy bitsy spiders, and the only reason why is this is before I saw Nightmare. I was about 5, and my grandfather would be watching that because I've shared that story, how he was a huge Friday the 13th fan. Big fan of the first 4, especially the first 4. Yeah. And he'd be watching it, and I'd be trying to go in there and watch it. He'd go, "Get the fuck out of here, man! I'm trying to watch my movie," because I was too young. He didn't want me to see what was right. But I had very vivid memories of trying to sneak in and hearing that, itsy bitsy spider and seeing the water and the foot stomping on the ground and whatnot. It's one of my first memories. And I don't call it my first memory of watching a horror movie, but a first memory of trying to watch a horror movie.
Right. I gotcha. That's cool. I do remember you saying that he was a big fan. So with me, like 2 is I like 2 a lot. because it does feel really organic, and of course it was shot in a different location. Even the town that they go to at the beginning, I believe, is a different town, is it not? It's not the same. It's not.
You mean where Adrian King's character is at?
No. Where, like, at the beginning of part 2, where
Oh no, it's the same town. It's on the same lake. It's just like a mile up from where it's or half mile, whatever. I forget. They say
no,
in
but the first movie was right. But the first movie was shot in Jersey, and the second movie was shot in Connecticut.
Correct.
So it's a completely different town. But aesthetically, you feel like, even though it's the same location, right? You know, so that's
those
always
maple
good.
Trees, man, you see those big ass maple trees and leaves and shit. Yeah, I mean, well, you know, I mean, you guys got all that shit up there.
It's starting to change color now. So I mean, yeah. So it's like I like part 2, and I like the idea of I guess, how long has it been? Did they say it's 5 years later or something like that, or how long after part 1 is part 2?
Well, in the timeline, for release,
no, in the actual,
year,
but in the actual
is
timeline,
5 years. Yeah,
it's 5 years. Okay, yeah. So
I think they just like threw out a number because it doesn't make sense. But because Jason technically would have only been like 11 or 12, so I don't think they like totally thought that through. Because I'm guessing Jason in this one is like early 20s if you were to put an age, right? Yeah.
Well, I always thought that when
early 20s, maybe.
Yeah, I always thought that when he drowned, he was like 10, 11, or 12. So he'd be like 15 or 16.
16. Yeah, okay.
You don't really get that sense, really.
No,
but
actually,
maybe.
You know what? Now that you say that, and hearing that,
maybe you do.
Maybe you do, because when you look at that ending scene between him and Amy Steele, he's not big. He's a small. I mean, he is taller than her, but from certain perspectives, he is small. And when he's going up against Paul, he's I don't know if it's hard to tell because the angles of the cameras. It's tough to tell who's taller than who in real life. I mean, I could just look it up and look at the actor's height and look at the one of the three. I think it's 3 actors that played Jason in that film.
Dash was the main one.
Dash was the main one, but there was. I could have sworn somebody in the chat room helped me out. I know there was another one, maybe 2 that. Oh yeah. The third one was the chick who played her at the beginning. Him at the beginning. It was the girl.
Oh, right.
At the beginning.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and also the one that comes through the glass at the end. That's not Dash. That's
right. No, I know that's not Dash, but I forgot it was the girl. That's who I was thinking of. Who, the woman, whatever. She plays Jason at the beginning of the film. Right. Fun fact if no one knew that.
Yeah. So I mean, 2 for me is it's cool because I like that the events in the original Friday the 13th, even though it's only been 5 years, have now been sort of, designated almost legend, right? Like, even though it's only been 5 years, it's like, don't go over to that camp. That's Camp Blood. You're doomed. Even though he said that at the beginning. But, it's like the creepy guy, and, it's off limits, and then you got those 2 characters that go over there, and and they're going through, and they see the abandoned cabins that have been weathered, and and then of course what's his face there, the main guy, Paul, right? He's there at the campsite, and he's telling the legend, and I like that kind of shit. It really builds suspense, and
too,
it's good.
It feels like it's a kind of a cool, crisp summer evening. They're around the campfire and shit, telling the story. I mean, that was the times, man. If that were filmed today, this is what people would be doing around the campfire.
Oh yeah.
Story. Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, that's right. If there was reception. Yeah, right, no. You're absolutely right. I like Potato Sack Jason as well. I used to think when I was a kid, like a little kid in the 80s, I used to think that it was a pillowcase.
Same with me. I thought it was a pillowcase too, and I used to put a pillowcase over my head.
Same with me. That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly.
I had my Oshkosh Bagosh cover overalls, whatever the Oshkosh overalls and shit. So back in the day, I would take the pillowcase. My mom would get so pissed at me.
Oh, you cut a hole.
Absolutely, dude. And I think that's what I liked about that version of Jason, because again, when it's that childlike mind set of just not really giving a fuck, but being insecure about the way he looks. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's there. There's a reason, obviously, we find out at the end why he's covering his face,
right?
Which is a form of obviously insecurity. But it's the simplicity of using the element and using what is around him to have his identity. And I've often wondered, because I'm sure you're aware that they approached Amy Steele to do part 3 initially.
Yes.
And I often wondered, had she done part 3, first of all, it would have changed the whole makeup of the franchise. Would they have kept William Gillette, by the way? Thanks, guys. William Gillette. I think I just said that wrong. Warrington. William Gillette is Gillette's Castle up in Connecticut.
Gillette, the best a man can get.
He's Sherlock. He was a stage actor of Sherlock, I believe. Okay. And there's a castle, and there's a legit castle in Connecticut that we used to go to a lot. But Warrington Gillette, who was the actor in the chat room, helped me out with that. He's the one that we see the face of at the end, I believe. And I often wondered, had she committed to doing it, would they have kept the continuity of his character and the look of Jason the same had she come back? Because that's when we'll get into 3 on the drastic change in look that I didn't like.
Yes, yeah.
Because I really liked when you see the reveal of Jason's face at the end there, that mountain man hermit, the hair all fucked up and natty, it added even that much more to the creep factor of that sack. You know what I mean? And you put it all together.
For sure. And I love how the pitchfork at the end of the movie almost becomes his choice of weapon. I mean, that was cool. Like, that was cool to see that he's got this pitchfork. And I love the way he puts it through the door. Amy, just like right through the door. And, Amy's trying to, of course I'm saying her real name, but she's trying to get at it. Like 2 carries over in terms of aesthetic, in terms of continuity, in terms of style, the sound, the look, the feel. It is almost a perfect sequel.
It really is.
And except for the first, yes, more so than Halloween 2, even though Halloween 2 also had Cundy. But what I like about, except for the first 10 minutes of part 2, where all of a sudden, Alice is getting offed, the rest of the movie really feels like a Friday the 13th sequel. And it's interesting that, okay, there's this Jason character now that supposedly is alive and has been hermit or whatever whatever the fuck is this. And I love the details when he's going after that one girl in the corner, and he's got that, I guess it's a knife or whatever it is in his hand.
Yeah.
And the nail on his thumb is all black.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that look.
Details that that is just so, and like you said, the weapon of choice, from the farmer pitchfork to the machete to he gets Ralph, obviously. I will say, I wish Crazy Ralph had lived. That's the only bummer to part 3. I wish Jason didn't off him, but I get it. I think that was with a barbed wire or something
like that. Yeah. Crazy Ralph would have been, I don't know why. I mean, unless it was the actor who played him was like, no, I don't want to do any more, so
possibly,
you better off. That's possible. If Crazy Ralph were alive today, he'd probably be 190, but if he were alive today, you bet your ass he'd be doing all the conventions and everybody. I gotta go see Crazy Ralph. Do it. Come on, do it. You're all doomed. And then he has a heart attack right there.
Absolutely. Of all the actors from the first 2 films, obviously Amy Steele being the top of the list that I would love to meet, he would be probably 3rd next to Kevin Bacon.
Of course.
I mean, it'd be cool as shit to meet Kevin Bacon. But Crazy Ralph. And first thing I would say to him was like, dude, you got to deliver the line to me. I got to hear it.
Yeah. And because he'd be 108, he'd do it and he'd collapse. You're all doomed.
That's it.
And down he goes.
And then what do you see? He got Jeff and Sandra with the spear as he turned them into a kebab.
Right through the thing. Have you seen what Sandra looks like today? The woman who the poor girl's had a rough life, man.
Yeah.
I thought she was kind of cute in the first in that part 2 film. She's kind of had a cuteness to her.
Cuteness to it, exactly. Kind of fun cute,
It's so unfortunate she's had a tough life. She looks probably about, and this is not one word of a lie, guys, she looks about 20 years older than what she is.
What she is, yeah. It's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. But anyway,
Amy's still looking good.
Amy's still looking good. So I like part 2, and I think it's a pretty decent sequel, to that original film, because where are you going to go? The idea of making
fast. I mean, it really flows real quick.
It does. And the idea to make it about Jason was an interesting choice. Now, this is where I believe that, I know they solidified that from part 6 onwards, Jason is nothing but a zombie. But I don't believe for a second that Jason was nothing but human in part 2, 3, and 4. I mean, maybe you could make the argument and say that he had more of a human-ish side to him maybe than the later sequels. That's very apparent. But, I mean, the story is he drowned in the lake. That is the story. Yep. The story is not people think he drowned no, he didn't actually drown in the lake. He actually just pretended to drown in the lake, or he didn't drown. He was living no, he drowned in the lake. And his body that's why and if you want to say that him coming out of the water is not a dream, which a lot of people like to say, no, that's not a dream, that really happened. Okay. Well, then that means that he was down there living, breathing, it means that there's some element to him that is not human at all. And for him to just be this mountain man living in the mountains, this Neanderthal, whatever it is, living off of camp counselors and fish. I mean, there's something about him that has always been zombie-like, that has always been, from his deformity down to his strength, down to his ability, the fact that he's just survives out there, and the fact that he drowned as a child but survived somehow. I mean, that alone tells you that there's something more about him. Now, if you want to say that that part of him was whatever part of him was not human, I think is what is waiting, and it's the electricity. It's like you throw all verisimilitude out the window. I mean, it's the lightning that hits his body and makes him come back to life. And it's like, okay, well, whatever the fuck it was that allowed him to survive drowning is now helping him to be alive in part 6, 7, 8, and 9. But I've always seen Jason as, at the very least, half human.
I'm going to quote a famous line for all those horror fans out there, okay? Dave, you are talking about him as if he was human. That part of him died years ago. Know the movie? Know the line.
Yes, of course. Well, it's Halloween.
Of course, that was a shitty impression of the actor.
No, I believe it's either 4 or 5. Is it 5?
It's 4.
It's 4. Okay.
Wait,
right.
Yeah,
He says, no, it is 4. He says it. No, I know where he says it now. He says it right where the ambulance is tipped over and he's outside. Yeah, that's right. But this is the thing, is that I understand that there's a very big distinction between the way Jason looks, the Kane Hodder version of Jason, because you could even make the argument that Jason from part 6 isn't, I mean, even though he doesn't look like, Kane Hodder is the quintessential, like zombie Jason. That's completely different than what Richard Brooker and Ted White were doing in 3 and 4. So, but I always still think that
there's the 2 guys in 2 as well, too.
Right, because, let's face it, if he was completely human, then there's nothing about the lightning that would have been able to bring him back.
Well, no, that's totally Frankenstein. You're
right.
Totally
so if Jason was nothing but human, he died, and he was decaying. So lightning hitting his body's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. I mean, if I die and I'm lying in a coffin, I'm human. I'm dead. Lightning hitting me is just going to make me more dead than I already am. So there had to have been something that was there, whatever that something is, that, sprung to life and now made him fully a zombie or whatever. But Jason was never fully human per se. Yeah. Not in my opinion anyway.
No, in fact, I know I'm going to get shit for this, but I like part 5 better than anything that Kane Hodder was in. It's not him. That's the most important thing. It's not, has nothing to do with him as Jim. Right. It's what he was a part of in the stories, like
I will
Jason versus Carrie in part 7, basically, and fucking Manhattan and forget Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. It has nothing to do with the way Kane Hodder played Jason. I'm just talking about the story behind him. Even though Jason wasn't the killer in part 5, at least, you know what? We can say what we want about part 5. Part 5 still stays within continuity because of Tommy Jarvis. The events that happened in part 4 continue. They don't continue, but they do carry with Tommy Jarvis being a part of part 4. Part 5. So as bad as it is, it does stay in continuity. And actually, to be honest with you, the kills are pretty decent in part 5.
Oh yeah, they are. They're great. Now we'll get to
enchiladas are fucking killing me, man.
We'll get to part 3 here in a second, but I just want to piggyback on what you said. I have the utmost respect for Kane Hodder. I mean, if you've seen his documentary and the things that he has been through and the experience that he has,
did he get burned filming the film?
Yeah, he did.
Friday?
Yeah. I mean, he's just uber respect for him. However, having recently watched part 7, 8, 7 and 8 this past summer, he's not my favorite Jason. I don't think of him when I think of Jason, and he's not. I don't think he's big enough. Like he's wide. He's a fucking tank, but he's not tall enough. And there are many moments in Friday the 13th, part 7 and 8, where he actually there's a lot of mass.
He's like 6'2".
There's no way he's 6'2". I'm telling you right now, there is no way. No, I know what Google says, but there is no. He's got either lifts in his shoes or he's wearing boots, because when you see him in the frames against the main protagonist,
6'4". Holy shit! I was even off by 2 inches. He's not 6'4".
He's not 6'4". Kane, if you're watching, we love you. You might have been able to say you were 6'4" with some lifts 30 years ago, but in the days of the internet and conventions and people are meeting you, he's not 6'4". I'm telling you right now, he's not. And when you watch him in scenes in the frame with the protagonists, either he's 6'4", either he's shorter, and not like maybe 5'10", 5'11", or all the women in the frame are 6'4" as well, because he's just as tall as the women. He's not a very tall guy. I'm not saying he's short. I'm just saying that he's not 6'4". He's not 6'2". If he's 6 foot, he's barely 6 foot. Now that doesn't, listen, a lot of people like Tom Cruise, Stallone, will put lifts in their shoes or will wear high shoes to make them taller, right? So I'm not saying that's what Kane does. I'm just saying that when I watch those movies, he's considerably the same, shorter and the same height as a lot of the people he's trying to intimidate. Right. And it's noticeable. And because he's so wide, he's very wide, and he looks very he looks like a football receiver. Sorry, not a receiver. Exactly. Like he looks like one of those those little fucking.
He looks like the tire Michelin guy.
Yes, exactly. He's just like this, and it's very noticeable. I love me some Kane Hodder.
Kane, I do love you, dude.
Of course, this is not personal. But it's watching it now. Like there's moments where I'll see him in part 8 where he's on the boat and there's like a master shot and he's walking. He looks short. He looks short because he's so fucking wide. If he actually was 6'4", he wouldn't look that short. He's not 6'4". I'm telling you. He's not 6'4".
No,
anyways,
I absolutely. I when I Googled that, because I have to pull it out. I got to meet Derek Jeter when he first was coming up, before he became captain of the Yankees and shit. I forgot. My dad took me down. This was like in '95 or whatever. He took me to a Yankee game because he'd always take me to Yankee games every year.
Yeah.
And Derek Jeter, 6'3". That dude is tall, and I'm only 5'10".
Yeah.
When I'm standing next to Jeter, it is like, okay, dude, you are a tall motherfucker, taller than I thought. And yeah, I've never met Kane Hodder, but somehow I don't think Kane Hodder is going to dwarf me like it was standing next to Derek Jeter, and standing next to anybody who's 6'3" or taller.
Right, exactly. No, and Kane, he's not. I saw him here in Toronto a few years ago, and he was taller than me, but not by much, and I'm not that tall. So, I mean, he's not. There's no way he's six. I don't even think he's 6 foot. I think he's 5'11" at the most. I'm thinking he's 5'10". That's what I'm thinking he is. But anyway, enough of that. Friday the 13th, Part 3. Okay, so this is the movie where Jason finally gets his mask. This is also the movie that is very shticky, gimmicky, not only with its opening title sequence.
Freaking poke the fucking camera, right?
Not only in its opening title sequence in terms of its look and its music, but in terms of the utilization of 3D. And this is a movie that I actually, of course, it also looks very different from parts 1 and 2 because it was shot in California.
Aesthetically, that's I didn't know we were gonna go there right away, but yeah, it takes me right out of this movie. The aesthetic look doesn't look anything like what I'm envisioning. And now, I'm not saying the movie has to stay at Camp Crystal Lake or whatever, but come on, man, do your research. You want to at least keep it like what they did. They brought it up to the counselor's place.
Yeah.
Now maybe we're across the lake this time at someone's house.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that, but come on, can we not keep it somewhat in the same region?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I just it's got a lot. It looks very different. I mean, you can tell, very different. And but I do like this movie, but the campiness and the cheesiness is dated. I mean, it's very like, the motorcycle gang and the moments of 3D was I mean, 3D went away for a bit. I mean, there were 3D movies in the 50s, I believe, and it was a big sort of thing, and it went away. And in the early 80s, 3D sort of made a comeback. Of course, you have Jaws 3D, Friday the 13th 3D. There were
Amityville did one, right? In 3D.
Amityville did one. Yeah, there were a couple other films. So it was sort of making a comeback, but it's very campy 3D. I mean, it's stuff that they actually had to shoot it in ways to utilize the 3D technology.
They had to build the lake. That wasn't there. They literally had to fill that whole pond, whatever you want to call it.
They did, and it looks like a swamp.
It really does. It looks nothing like a lake.
Yeah, and this is sort of, at this point in the game, there's just no doubt that Jason is at least somewhat supernatural. Now, at the beginning of this one, we don't really find out whatever happened to Paul, and this one begins sort of like how part 2 left off, where we actually see Ginny being wheeled out into the ambulance, being taken off. We unfortunately don't ever know whatever happened to her. Now, I doubt that was shot for part 3. That was probably something
the ending of part 2.
That's it, yeah. But at the ending of part 2, we don't actually see that, though. Like, we don't see her being
where she's being loaded into the ambulance.
Oh, really? Okay. So
she's asking where Paul is and whatnot. That's the ending of part 2.
Do we see that at the beginning of part 3? We don't, do we?
We see it on what's supposed to be that they're showing it when the woman's watching the news.
Right. Okay.
Supposed to be the news footage of them loading up Ginny and everything.
Right.
That's them trying to tie it in together because Amy still obviously wasn't coming back.
Right.
And I think that's they wrote her off to go, wherever she's in a mental hospital or something, which just sucks because I would have loved to have seen them. I wish Amy Steele had just taken a beat. Look, you're not going to go Meryl Streep. Take the Curtis route, become the face of the franchise like Jamie Lee was at the time. Remember, at the time, because this is now 1982, Jamie Lee was the face of Halloween because she had done 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. And it would have been very interesting to see what direction. They might not have even done the damn thing in 3D. I mean, we have no idea.
No idea. Yeah.
I haven't seen a full script. So if anybody knows, please DM me on Instagram. I've never seen the script of what 3 was supposed to be about, but I heard that they were in talks and that there were some ideas of what they were approaching Amy on, and she wanted to take a different route, which is unfortunate because she's even said she regrets it now.
Yeah. No, she has said that. It's a 3's got a great Jason. 3's got a great Jason.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So obviously Jason got bigger and he was hitting the gym, and clearly his favorite exercise was fucking shoulder shrugs because he had traps fucking out to here.
He was fucking Goldberg. He was Goldberg, man, from 1997.
Small. Like, he's got these huge neck and traps, and then everything else goes small. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, don't you know? You know, he was out there. He was out there lifting up fucking logs, just doing this. That's what he was doing. He was building up his traps. Yeah, between 2 and 3, that's what he was doing.
Like, what the hell were they going? Because he just looks so proportionately.
Oh, there's no continuity with it. You know, but I like everything with Jason. And I think what Richard Brooker did was great. And of course, this is, you know, he gets the iconic Jason mask, right? The part 3 from Shelley, you know, and that moment when he walks out onto the dock and the girl is there in the water and he, you know, shoots her with the crossbow or whatever right in the eye. And I mean, it's just, he does it so casually, and then just what he looks genuinely frightening, different from what Dash was doing in part 2, but equally frightening, you know, and the hockey mask was something unique and different, and it was, it worked for me. The thing that I don't like about part 3 is that there's of course, you know, there's a charm to it now, and, you know, you can't take these movies, like, you could have taken these movies seriously, and I use that term loosely, with 1 and 2. They were always B horror movies at best, but they had an essence of, they were taking themselves somewhat seriously. You know, I say somewhat, like, okay, it's not, you know, totally, but part 3, right from the beginning, right from the music, right from the 3D, the cheesy biker gang, you know, it just was, it was like, okay, we're almost doing a comedy here, you know, almost, you know, and so, you know, I mean, it's got a charm, and I think if it wasn't for that Jason, I don't know if people would like it as much as they do. And if it wasn't for the fact that this is where the hockey mask is revealed, and it's always cool to see that unfold. But in terms of the kills, I don't think the kills are, I mean, I love the kill with the spear, but the kills,
I can't watch that now. Well, I mean, I can if I watch it on VHS, because I have it somewhere on VHS. But when I watch it now digitally, I see the fucking string that the damn wires connected to.
I'm telling you, see?
You cannot watch Friday the 13th Part 3 digitally now, because you will see everything revealed. You'll see the snake on a string. Where the snake pops out from the rabbit's cage, or whatever cage it was. It was a rabbit's cage, right? You'll see the arrow on a string. And that is not at the fault of the creators. That's just technology hasn't caught up apparently enough to edit that out.
Oh, it's certain. No, it absolutely has. I'll never understand.
I was being sarcastic on that.
Yeah, I'll never understand why when they you know, transfer, well, movies that were never shot in HD to begin with, they transfer them to Blu-ray or 4K, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. I'll never understand why they don't go back in and then just, you know, get rid of the wires again. It probably costs a lot of money, but, you know, when you watch older films like The Exorcist or Elm Street or Friday the 13th, the effects that they were doing, you can see the wires, and I'll never understand why they don't go back in and do it. But anyway.
Yeah, especially when his head gets crushed and the eye pops out. I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad. But
I like that though. I like.
I love the kill. Yeah, it's probably my favorite kill in the movie, when he just like grapefruits the shit out of that dude's head. I mean, look, you're right. I mean, the only thing that I can say that's even remotely redeeming about 3 is getting the hockey mask. it's not one that I'm going to turn to and watch. You know, this was the first time I've watched it in, like I said, it's probably at least 10 years, if not longer.
Right.
It's not one that I go to very frequently in watching this series, Friday the 13th.
But the thing, sorry, I just want to say the thing, even though it's campier, it's cheesier, there's definitely a tonal shift, you know, in terms of what we've come to expect from Friday the 13th through the first two films. It's because of its music and because of its, even though it's aesthetically, it looks like a different camp. Well, it's always supposed to be a different campground. It's just supposed to be on the same lake, I guess.
Right.
It still feels Friday the 13th. And I think largely that's because of its music and its sound and teenagers and going to the camp. And there is a continuity feel there that this does feel like Friday the 13th, even though it's a little campier, it's a little cheesier. It still kind of feels like it. And Jason is still sort of, there in the shadows and, so I do like that aspect.
That moonlighting, man, where everything is like so overly lit, and I'm like, wait, that's where, and it's probably just the photographer in me, and and when I see something, then I'm like, wait, that is not what nighttime should be looking like. And as she's sitting there telling the story about her experience and confronting Jason, and everything is just so lit up, I'm like, no, if you look at and juxtapose that now to the scene with Paul telling the story around the campfire in part 2, they're using the ambient light of the campfire and you see a little bit of the house behind them lit up.
Well, there probably is an external light somewhere, but it's not lit up like a Christmas tree.
No, because when you look at this, and now they're actually showing, and in a lot of scenes, I kept seeing this in rewatching it here over the weekend, you're seeing what they're supposed to be telling you is the light source. Right. That's coming from this lamp outside, but then it rises up above it like 10 or 15 more feet above the tree. And I'm like, the moon is not going to light up this tree that much. Come on, people. Like, can we at least make a little bit of an effort here if you're going to try to do nighttime lighting and not make it so bad? Because it really, at times, looks like it's on a soundstage. That's what ends up happening. You do that type of night lighting, folks. So for those who are trying to be a filmmaker, when you light it like that, you're going to end up making it look like on a soundstage versus to actually being on a real location, even though we know it was a real location. Yeah, and but you bring up a good point, at the beginning as well with the lake. I mean, when Chris goes out onto the lake and it's almost this mirrored shot from, Alice in the first movie, instead of Jason coming out of the lake, it's Pamela coming out of the lake for some fucked up reason with her head intact, by the way. Don't even get me started on that.
Again, that's obviously supposed to be a vision or a dream or, whatever. But it clearly looks like a little like a pond/swamp. Like, it looks like something you'd find seagull shit in, or something. It doesn't look like the lake that you come to expect.
The first two.
Yes, it looks very strange. I mean, and then, of course, I have to justify it by saying to myself, well, maybe the lake is around the corner or, something to it. I like part 3. I do. Maybe not... I don't. I like it probably more than you do, but I certainly acknowledge that.
Oh, it's low on
that
my
it's
list.
that it's a tonal shift. I would watch 3 over 6, and I know that might shock some people, but I would, and I think it's because
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I know people in this day and age get like, oh, how could you? Like, I like 6 over 3. This is where me and Dave don't agree on, but we're not sitting there like, Dave, you're wrong.
You fucking piece of shit. No, not at all.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 3 over 6, that's totally cool.
I do, and but I'm not. But you have to acknowledge that there is a big tonal shift in that movie, and aesthetically, but what they did right to keep it Friday the 13th-esque, they did well, and of course, you can't. I mean, the introduction of that mask, love it or hate it, love how it was done or not. That is the mask. Yes, that is a part 3 replica right there, and that's why I bought it, because I wanted it clean. I wanted it from that first, or not the first, but the first film that we see that in, and but it I like the barn scene at the end with
the barn is fun in general
Chris.
as a whole. All the kills in the barn, and like you said, yeah, the ending with Chris, I have no problem with that. Those are fun.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly. But it's good shit. It's cool stuff. And, but it's certainly the 3D aspect of it is campy. And the end and that music that, of course, if you follow me on social media, you would have seen that I did a great dance to while wearing that mask.
Oh, yeah. That was hilarious.
I did that on the...
We got rid of him.
I did. And I do. And I did that on the 7th or 8th or whatever it was anniversary of the release of that movie. So that was kind of funny. But no, I like it. I do. And but it's certainly, you watch it now and the 3D's like, whoo, and the whole motorcycle gang, I just think is so fucking cheesy. Like they're not, it's almost like I'm watching, it's like they're caricatures of themselves. I don't feel like I'm watching a genuinely frightening motorcycle gang. I feel like I'm watching a motorcycle gang from Greece, where they're like, it's like a 50s motorcycle gang and they're caricatures of themselves, where it's like it's like a cartoon version of, the archetype of the motorcycle gang. So I even back when I was a kid watching it, I always felt it was kind of cheesy, that they were never really intimidating. But hey, it was the early 80s, and I guess, what do you do?
The only thing I really don't understand about 3, and maybe you can shed a little more light on this for me, is now look, we all know in cinema is everybody steals from everyone, steals ideas, and they'll somehow find a way to get it into their movie as their little wink and nod to whatever inspired them, but to rip off your own franchise and try to recreate something that the original film did, where you do have Pamela Voorhees jump out at the end. First of all, now back in 1982, I believe this is when it came out, I'm sure that probably confused the shit out of everybody, because you got to remember, movie-going audience wasn't like it is today. You know what I mean? And how continuity and storytelling and, even the audience, as well too.
Right.
Back then, it was just like, fuck, man, we're just going to have fun and, maybe we'll talk about it afterwards. Maybe we won't. People are not doing like what we're doing today. So that probably threw people for a loop like, what the fuck is this? Let alone the fact that that's basically ripping off your own franchise and what they did in the first film. Not only that, but to carry on that scene where everything kind of calms down and she's having her freak out moment in the cop car, and then they slowly pan over to the lake to only reveal the air bubble drop that they were trying to recreate that the first film did. Why are you ripping off your own franchise? Like, it literally made no sense to me at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was to bring it sort of full circle. I remember as a kid thinking, are they going to bring back Pamela now in part 4?
Yeah, like we know.
That would have been amazing.
We know now today what that represents, but back then I'm sure people were probably like, okay, is this a new character that's going to be introduced to the franchise? Right. And then if people were aware that it was Jason's mom, didn't her head get decapitated? How did it magically grow back onto her? Or, did Jason sew it back onto her head? Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Right.
I honestly believe people back then who saw this probably thought it was a new character. I don't think people made that connection the way we're making it today now in 2019, that we know that that's Jason's mom. But like I said here a moment ago, I mean, you're literally ripping off your own franchise. That's just like, come on, guys, put a little effort into creating an original ending.
Well, that's true too. That's a good point you make, is that I can totally see when watching it at first, you wouldn't make the connection that was Pamela Voorhees, because it's like, who's this? Who the fuck's that? Right? Like, who's that coming out of the water? And, and of course it cuts, and you're right,
because to the viewer mindset, Jason's mom is dead.
Right.
So who the fuck is this popping out?
Right. And of course you cut to Chris, who's, I guess she has that laugh to kind of make us think that she's gone crazy and all that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. And it doesn't go anywhere, so it was just, I guess she was just having a dream of some sort or something. But nonetheless, after Friday the 13th part 3, we get Friday the 13th part 4, the final chapter. And of course, whenever you see final, last in any movie, don't take it seriously.
Actually, it's my fourth favorite in the franchise, which it happens to be the fourth in the franchise.
This is, funny enough, this is probably the one movie outside of Friday the 13th Part 6 that tends to be a lot of people's favorites.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this movie is that the tonal shift that we had with Friday the 13th Part 3, they sort of take a step back from, and this feels, you know, in terms of the music and the opening credits and the way it's done, and it feels very much in line with the first two films. You don't have that campy 3D, you don't have the campy, cheesy, boom, boom, you know, you don't have any of that shit, right?
Music.
Right. So it suddenly that you know, right out of the gate, we feel like we're back at Camp Crystal Lake. Now, where was Part 4 filmed? Was that California again?
California. But
California again.
Whoever did their research at least gave you that feel that it's you could believe that Part 1, Part 2, and Part 4 were generally in the same location. You could get that feel. Yeah.
You could. You absolutely could. And the lake looks like a lake.
Exactly.
Right? So, I mean, it's very different from Part 3. I mean, think of the ending of Part 3 when, you know, Mrs. Voorhees comes and what the hell is a swamp? It looks like I, you know, dug a hole in my backyard and put a canoe in it. Anyway.
Yeah, and who, I forget, was this Ted White who played Jason in this one?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I liked him. Still kicking. I can't deny that. He was good. He was really good.
He was good, and he's still kicking today. I think he's like 95 or whatever it was.
Bring him back.
Yeah, bring him back. Bring back Ted White, ladies and germs. But this movie... obviously, with the introduction of Corey Feldman, and that
this was before Goonies, right? This is 1983.
No, this is 4.
Is that 1984?
This is 1984. Sure? Yes, there was a year between 3 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah. This is 1984.
Because I know the first is 80, the second is 81, the third is 82,
and the fourth is 84. Okay. Yeah, and
great year! Nightmare on Elm Street came out that year too.
It did. And this
God, I'm so envious of you teenagers who got to experience this shit.
Yeah, this is something that this I like this movie. I think I think this is in some ways the quintessential slasher movie.
It is.
You know what I mean? When we talk, because there's no psychological component. Like my favorite is the first. But it's a slasher movie, but there's a couple other things in there, too, that make it appealing and interesting from a different point of view.
Sure.
This is almost you have the good-looking girls, you have the jock, you have some pretty cool kills, you got some mood and atmosphere, you got some blood.
You got the hot peppermint twins, not the real peppermint twins, but you know what I'm saying.
But it's just a fun movie to watch, and it's of course... Crispin Glover, the dead fuck. He's
and who would have known 1 year later he'd be Marty McFly's dad?
That's
right?
it. Yeah, he's very meta, man. Don't fuck shit. But this movie feels very in line with the Friday the 13th series. It feels like an appropriate end in some ways. It feels like an ending to this movie. I know they introduce a new storyline into this film. You have Tommy Jarvis, you have the mom and the sister, and I get all that.
Yeah.
But it does, it in some ways feels like this idea that we're on with these movies, kids going to a lake, has now run its course. And this feels like a satisfying conclusion to that gimmick and that shtick. And that's why, for me at the very least, I consider 1 through 4 the series. You have a bit of an interesting hiccup. I use that term loosely because it's still, Jason, and it's still Crystal Lake, and it's still teenagers and whatnot. But 3 is... out of 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3 is sort of
stab someone and pull a Jamie Lloyd with that scissors, man.
Out of 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3 is that sort of funky one, But 4 sort of redeems itself a bit and kind of ends the series for me. I don't know. I guess there's, they killed him. They killed the human, whatever part of him was human. I mean, he had a machete go right through his skull, right through his brain. You had Tommy, Jarvis going, die, die, die. And he shaves his head to call back to when Jason was a boy. So there was that connection there. And yeah, it just felt like an appropriate sort of ending. And they end the movie, of course, with the sister in the hospital and Corey Feldman going to the hospital. He gives that hug, and there's just that moment. You see, that's the moment. That's the moment that I sort of have in my sequel concept idea for my Halloween, for the sequel to the 2018 film, where you don't do anything that blatantly says Jason is still alive, there's more to tell. You just plant the seed of doubt in the viewer's mind just to give them something to think about. And that's what Friday the 13th Part 4 did in a lot of ways, was it planted some sort of uncomfortable seed of doubt in your mind, making you think, oh, is there going to be... But the trick is to never make any more, and it makes that ending that much more iconic. Of course, we know where it went, but yeah, like 1 through 4 just feels like a complete series to me, because there's a very distinct feel. Even though 3's that kind of funky one, there's a very distinct, consistent feel. Again, like I said, the first 2 much more so than 3 and 4, but it's still kind of there. When you get to 5, it's there, but it's funky. It's different. And then 6 is like, I know it's a fan favorite, but 6 is like...
It's a rock show.
It's a rock show. It's the MTV version of Friday the 13th. It's breaking the fourth wall. You got Alice Cooper in there, which I like that song, by the way, but I'm just saying, you got that in there. You got... It's like a... Well, listen, I mean, the guy who wrote Scream, Kevin Williamson, loved Jason Lives.
Yep.
And you can definitely see the Scream thing in that movie.
Yep.
So, and then you get to 7 and 8 and the rest is history. 1 to 4 has a very tight-knit sort of, even though there's some changes in there, it feels like a complete almost story. I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm just saying it feels complete.
I get what you're saying. It's a complete set where you get 6 is almost like, hey guys, we're a big fan and we're going to make you a fucking epic fan film. Here you go. So there's no reason you have to justify it. You know what I mean? You don't have to sit there and explain why he's, Frankenstein back to life and shit. We're having fun with this one, man. Sit back, cook up some popcorn and fucking, have a good night. That's what I love about 6. If I'm going to watch the franchise of anything, I usually watch 1, 2, and then I pick, depending on, my evening, I might pick 4 or I'll pick 6. And it's usually it's one. If 4 and 6 are usually that last one when I usually do a 3-movie marathon.
Right.
And it varies. So like the next Friday the 13th that comes up here in December, I'll probably watch 1 and 2 and maybe 4 or 6. One or the other. But I agree. As much as I can't stand 3, it does stay within the continuity of it. It keeps telling the story, even though it's cheesy as hell. Those first 4 films, are a good complete set to telling the Jason Voorhees story. And that's when anybody asks me which ones to get, I usually tell them,
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, because in reality, think about this. Okay, I know 6 extends, even 5 does too a bit. I know 6 extends the Tommy Jarvis storyline. I get that. But because Jarvis was not in 7, and not in 8, and not in 9.
He should have been the one to kill Jason. And
not in 10. It makes the ending of 6 feel...
cheated.
Well, yeah, because all that effort went to waste. Yep. Nothing happened at the end of 6. He's nowhere around. We don't know why. Do we ever know why he's not in? No, I mean, in terms of the character,
I don't think they've ever mentioned his character.
And 7's got this weird
Carrie girl.
Well, no, just the feel to the movie just feels weird. Like I'm watching some early '90s weird, shitty. Well, no, it's 88, but it just feels like it's got some it just feels weird. And
it was
of course,
filmed
you got
in an Alabama swamp.
Yeah, just fucking weird. But anyway, so like 4, you can watch 4 and never watch another Friday the 13th again, and you're not at a loss,
right?
Because nothing happens. I mean, there's 6, which is a fun little movie, but because it's all for nothing. 7, nothing. What happens in 7? Nothing. What happens in 8? Nothing. Like, it doesn't, like,
they go on a magical boat ride.
Yeah, like there's nothing worth watching. It's just oh, this is fun. Oh, look,
although
it's Jason.
You get a young in part 8, you get a young what's her name there? I almost said Lucy Liu, not Lucy Liu, but what's her name? The Asian actress, fucking hot. Oh my god, what is her name?
The chat room will let us know.
I know, I'm so drawing a blank. It's not Lucy Liu. I keep saying Lucy Liu in my head, but it's not her name. Kelly Who. Thank you.
Kelly who?
Kelly Who. Yes. Yeah. So she's, that's a young, and she'll, there's.
Well,
the only
and
thing
like,
good
and
about 8 really is just the I Heart New York slashing through poster. That's the only thing good I can say about it, is the marketing for that film was good.
And look, it's not that I am here to say that the first 4 Friday the 13th movies, or any of the Friday the 13th movies, are great movies with great stories and look at this amazing arc. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying that there's nothing after. Well, I mean, you could say there's nothing after the first 2 movies, really. You could watch the first 2 movies, and that's it. But if you want to watch the other 2, because, oh, this is when he gets his mask, though, right? Actually, that's not entirely true, because the hockey mask, which is arguably one of the most iconic symbols in the history of horror, right? You could say, well, you have to watch 3 to see how he gets his mask. And then you have to watch 4 to see how this young boy defeats him. Okay, well, but beyond that, what are you getting? Really? Like, you're not getting. So that's my point, is that I'm saying it just feels like it just drags. It just, like, it's consistent in terms of the continuity. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't ever, like, even 5 is in the continuity. Like 5, as much as you hate it, it's not a Halloween 3.
No.
Okay? It is in the continuity. Everything does make sense. Everything is canon. It does make sense. All I'm saying is that everything after 4 is just not, like, it's useless.
It's garbage,
really.
Excluding 6.
Yeah. It doesn't mean, and 6 is just that fun kind of, but really even 6, is not needed per se. I mean, although you could say, well, here's what Tommy did. Okay, cool. But I think that's why, for me anyway, the first 4 films, you watch the first one. Okay. Oh, but did you know that kid that drowned comes back? Oh, okay, cool. Let's watch that one. Oh, but hey, did you know that in part 3, he gets the iconic hockey mask? Oh, fucking cool. Let's watch that one. Oh, hey, in part 4, did you know that this is where they kill him? And oh shit, so finally they're going to kill him. Let's watch that one. And that's it. Like, that's the series. There's no more to tell with this character, I don't know. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I mean,
apart from 6, of course.
As much as I prefer Sackhead over the hockey mask, I would be naive to deny the fact that those masks, the hockey mask, are, next to the claws, the most iconic symbol in horror movie history.
Oh yeah.
You don't even have to be a horror fan to people know when they see that. And I hate to say this, guys, I love Michael, but when you look at the 2, people are going to say the hockey mask, Jason, before they know, oh, that's Michael Myers.
The goalie mask is light years ahead of the Michael Myers mask. And there's reasons for that. Okay. It's not that, one is better than the other, or one, there's specific reasons why the hockey mask is more universally seen as a horror, symbol of horror over the Michael Myers mask. There's reasons for that. So, I mean, it is undoubtedly, incredibly iconic. And so, yeah, no, I think I interrupted you there. You were saying?
No, I was just saying, I mean, I was just agreeing with you in the fact that I can't deny that as much as I love Sack. The hockey mask is that came out wrong. I knew it as soon as it left. As soon as it left the station, I was like, "Wait, I can't pull that one back and reverse that."
I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's out there now.
No, it's okay. Listen. There's nothing wrong with liking Sack. Okay. There's nothing wrong with liking the Sack. You hear me, you son of bitches?
I need to take one of my. I need to get the guy who I have played Sackhead Jason, and then I need to create a T-shirt that says "There's nothing wrong with liking the Sack."
Hey, I like me some Sack. All right, there's nothing wrong with it, folks.
Shit. But if I were to get my hands and get the okay to do a sequel, I totally would kind of steal what they did here with Halloween and retcon everything and pick up from where 2 left off. Talk to Amy Steele and say, "Hey, man, we want you to come back and do another version with Sackhead." I get how iconic of the symbolism of the hockey mask and what it means to horror fans. But when I was just going to say, but when I look at the 2, and I said this earlier on, is in terms of creepiness, the Sackhead is always, to me, is going to be creepier than the hockey mask. You know, there's just very something disturbing when you don't know what's behind the mask.
Right.
Why is this dude only got one hole?
Right. No, I understand.
Potato sack over his head makes no fucking sense. You know, how is he breathing through that thing? You know, like, what the fuck's going on here? The hockey mask, you can almost justify it as like it's just a mask. You know what I mean? Even though it's become absolutely iconic in cinema, and I get that. So like, I get people's point, and I understand why they prefer the hockey mask. I get it. I understand it. But to me, I know, because we're going to get to the Q&A here shortly.
Yep.
I'll just kind of wrap this up quickly. To me, I just feel that when it comes to horror, I like being creeped out. I like being disturbed. And I'm always going to lean more heavily towards Jason in part 2 versus to Jason in part 3 and part 4. Even though I like White's performance in part 4 as Jason. Absolutely great. Everything you said, you hit it on the nail, from the acting with Feldman and Crispin and everybody else in that movie was spot on. The story was fucking absolutely great.
Yeah.
Just everybody has their taste, and mine just
of course. No, and there's nothing wrong with the Sack. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Crispin Glover's great musical number in this movie. I mean, it is iconic to this day. I used it in my little Halloween fan film that's on my channel, Haddonfield Reaper. If you guys haven't checked that out, it's on there. And I shot it with my buddy Bruce, actually, probably almost exactly a year ago. It was September of 2018. And we have that in there. So, I mean, I'd be, remiss if I didn't mention that. But one thing I want to say that you said there about
because you were to say something about the sequel, right? Picking up from
part 2. I was going to say that what could be a cool idea, because the hockey mask is so iconic, is what you could do is if you were to lead, because I think there's only 2 places. If you were going to do a Halloween thing and, retcon, some of the series, I think you pick up, I mean, I know some people would say, no, you pick up from 6. Yes, I understand 6 is the fan favorite. For me, I would say you pick up from 4, or like you're saying, you pick up from 2, but you have... Of course, I guess if you pick up from 2, you don't need to introduce the... I was just going to say that maybe you start with a hockey mask, but you reintroduce the potatoes, the sack, which might be interesting.
Well, first, I would go sack and maybe reintroduce the hockey mask.
Oh, you could do that too? Yeah. You could do that too. But wouldn't it be interesting to have the mask, but reintroduce the sack? You can't say that word now. All right, let's get to the Q&A. Hey, there was a super chat that came in a long time ago, and
make sure you grab them.
I don't know where they are. I cannot see them here. Let me see if I can go and grab them if they've shown up in the other side of things here. Just give me a second. I will see. That's why I always ask people to not send in super chats until we get to the Q&A, because sometimes what'll happen is that your question will be there for a bit, but then it doesn't disappear. It just goes into a folder, and then I have to access it, which takes a few seconds here, if it's even gone in. So let me see if it has here. And okay, have the super chats registered yet. One has registered, and that is Kevin Fishgall says Jason drowned at age 11 in 1957. He was, which means...
Oh, no, 57. You're right. Yeah,
57. He was, which means he was 36 in part 2. Right. Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense because you and I, yeah, of course, because part 1 takes place 5 years before part 2, but Jason drowning is years before part 1.
Even though it came out in 89 or 80, it actually takes place in 79.
Right.
Because
right.
Mrs. Voorhees' tombstone, which is revealed to us in part 4, is 1979. That's when she dies.
Right. Okay. But here's the thing. Why is he still a boy at the end of part?
Well, I just think his mind never fully. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Well, no, I'm saying that he was 11 in 1957. So then you go to 1979. That makes him 35 or whatever it is, right? Or whatever. Or no, 11 and 57. So that's 21, 31, 32, 33. So no, he'd be 33 in the original. So he should be a 33-year-old man coming out of the water, but he's not. He's an 11-year-old boy. So there's you know, I mean,
hallucination, man. Acid, wonderful drug. See, acid, weed, because remember now she does smoke from that joint, so she still could be high at the moment and maybe just kind of saw shit. Because, you know, back in the days, they had some good shit back then.
That she did. Yes, they did. Super chat from Kevin Riker. TD, thoughts on normal kid Jason at the end of 8? Oh, God. The first time I watched that movie, I thought, what the fuck is this? What are you... Like, I understand that maybe it's supposed to be taken philosophically in a way that, you know, it's symbolism, right? That, you know, Jason, the evil that is within him, you know, is now gone, and the purity that he was as a boy is what remains. But shit, there's many different ways you could execute that. That literally just looked like he just turned into a fucking boy. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? I fucking hated it. You?
No, I agree.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's see here. B Cove says, that Dave McRae, hey Dave, in your opinion, what would it take for a slasher to shed the B movie label? I don't think there's anything wrong with look. I think
what slasher films are.
That's what they are, because
I mean, look, not every film is going to be like, you know, Carrie, where you're going to get nominated for an Academy Award and shit. I mean, that's so rare for horror movies. The genre is always going to be considered B, you know, and I think it should be B because
at its core, I mean, for the slasher movie to evolve, usually what ends up happening is that you go the Scream route. Yeah. So Scream is a slasher, but it's a very cleverly written script that adds as a spoof / tribute / like there's other sort of story elements to it that help elevate its maturity level to a status of that can appeal to a broader audience. And when you look at something like, you know, Happy Death Day, you know, where again it's a slasher film in some ways, but would you classify it as a B movie? Not necessarily, but look at the shtick that is part of it. Look at the gimmick that they're bringing into it. They're bringing certain flavors, you know, into this kind of movie to help people, you know, to help give it a little more authenticity, to help it appeal to a broader audience. The slasher genre at its core is nothing but a killer stalking teenagers. That is what it is, and you don't need anything. You don't need anything more. I mean, yes, there has to be a bit of a story, but you don't need anything deep about it. You don't need anything philosophical about it. You don't need
not like
anything.
An Exorcist or Hereditary.
No, exactly. You know what I mean? So I think at its root core, the slasher genre will always be a B, like Hatchet and things like that. They're always B movies. Even Elm Street and Friday were B movies. The problem was, or not the problem, but the thing was, in the early 80s, that is what horror was. Horror was just B movies, really. And every now and then you got something good like The Exorcist, but those weren't slashers. They were always kind of like that, right?
Yep. Tipper Gore on her Christian crusade to stop making these devil movies.
Stop making devil movies.
Aaron, yes. Oh, yeah. Aaron, did the chick on Instagram comply? Yeah, she did comply. I have dubbed everybody officially on Instagram who follows me from this show as the Bullshit Army. And you guys came through huge today. A girl stole my photo off of Instagram and she put it on hers, and she blatantly lied and said she got the photo off of Pinterest. She didn't credit me on the photo or anything like that. And you guys fucking lit up her account. I mean, massively. Like, so many people were leaving comments, and I guess Instagram threatened her and said that if she doesn't take the photo off, because I guess that's a new policy with Instagram, is if you don't credit the photographer, you will actually have your account. They will disable your account entirely.
Did she post it saying that it was hers?
She just posted it, and she just said, I took the photo from Pinterest, and everybody was like, no, you didn't. And like, they're like, and even the guy who I have dressed, it was the shot of Michael in the grave with Judas tombstone in front of him. The one recently that I did here.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Even the dude who played Michael for me and his girlfriend were like, we were standing there. I was with him that day when he took the shot.
Well, and here's the thing too, to that girl. I mean, if you really did get it off Pinterest, because who's to say somebody else didn't take it and post it on, Pinterest? If I'm not saying she did, I'm just saying if she did, then she needs to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Here's where I got it. Provide the link so you can then go to the proper people and say, can you take that down? Right? You know what I mean? That's all she has to do. If she did in fact get it from Pinterest, but something obviously tells me that she didn't.
The Bullshit Army, man, you guys came through.
Love it. David Coe, super chat. Thank you, David. Much appreciated. Dave, for Pete's sake, please watch Terrifier. Also, can we get an imitation of Donald Trump doing one of Dr. Loomis' lines? Love the show, guys. Oh boy. Let me see.
Can you
here.
do that? That's that. You should pick a simple line. Don't go into the speech,
right.
man.
No, you're right. You're right. A simple line.
You're gonna go into the speech, aren't you?
No, I was trying to think of
15 years ago. The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
I met this 6-year-old child, okay? With this blank, pale, tremendously emotional face. It was a tremendous face.
How was the eyes, Trump? How was the eyes?
With the blackest eyes. It was great. It was amazing. The blackest eyes, okay? Amazing. Cold like me.
And how do you feel on the fact that he's killed 3 people here tonight?
Love it. Amazing. Great. I'm trying to think of what he says. He's got all these adjectives. Tremendous. Great. What does he say? Tremendous. Huge kills. Huge kills. Tremendous kills. Just tremendous. Love him. Great. I want him in my cabinet, okay?
There you go, guys.
Donald Trump. Love it. It's great. I love, Donald Trump. Love it. Melania, you're fired, okay? Melania, I could go somewhere else with Melania, but I'm not going to do that. Let's see here. Tremendous kills. Tremendous kills. I love it. And then here comes Christopher Walken. It's amazing. Hello. Come on. No.
So, Trump, do you think we need to build a wall around Haddonfield?
No. Bolator Media says that David McRae. Dave and Tony, in your opinion, who played Bruce Wayne the best? Not Batman. In my opinion, it's Bale. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with what Bruce Wayne is. I mean, Bale, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I'm
going to go Keaton. I mean, personally, okay. I'm obviously very much anticipating what Robert Pattinson's about to do here with that role, and how he's going to bring his version of Bruce Wayne to the screen. So I have to say right now, because of my childhood, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Keaton. Doesn't take anything away from what Bale did in Nolan's trilogy. I thought, he was fine, but I tend to lean a little bit more towards Michael Keaton.
Cool. PC Pierce said, thank you, PC, says, what's the first R horror you'd show to your kids? Well, I don't think either of us have kids, but, well, I know I don't, not that I know of. No, just kidding. Let me see here. The first R horror, well, it depends on the age of the children.
Yeah.
But I think, first R horror movie to show them would be, I don't know, something, probably an older film. That is less hyper realistic, something they may even find cheesy today, right? Like even one of the Friday the 13th, I mean, showing them Friday the 13th Part 3 or I don't know, Halloween 5 or like something that's, like even Terror Train or, it depends on the age of the children.
I'm pulling up a question here that was asked, and I did not want to forget it. From Austin. Hey, man, love this show with you and Dave. What was your favorite Halloween movie experience? And when I thought about that question that was asked to me, I started to think back now. And I started to go, holy crap, I have not had a really good Halloween movie experience, except for a couple. Because I went as far back to Curse of Michael Myers, which was obviously the first one. I remember walking out of there feeling disappointed. Very disappointed because of what they did with Jamie Lloyd's character, Daniel Harris, not being in the movie. Of course, remember, guys, this is 1995. Internet was around, but I wasn't surfing and finding out all the reasons behind why Daniel Harris wasn't a part of the movie. So I just remember walking out of Curse going, man, it's just so disappointed. H2O, I had fun with H2O at the time. I was like, okay, this was fun. I remember it was senior year, high school, and just was like, friends, popcorn, we watched the movie. It was a good time. Didn't have anything. Resurrection, I walked out of that pissed. Angry, pissed off. Like, what the fuck did I just watch? Totally took a shit on H2O. This fucking sucks. Get me the fuck out of here. I was angry. Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first one. Again, I walked out of there like, this was fun. Good popcorn movie. I saw his approach and, what he did with it. I thought was okay. Obviously, you all know I've told that story about the sequel to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I walked out of it before the movie was even halfway done.
Yes.
And never saw the completion of it. 2018, the reason why I didn't enjoy it as much as I want to enjoy it is because I still believe I was duped into something where they retcon the whole series, but yet they sort of paid tribute to the whole series at the same time. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I walked out of there like, yeah, this was great. I walked out of there like, so I'd have to say of where I was old enough to experience and watch a Halloween film and which ones did I enjoy walking out of the theater, H2O and probably Rob Zombies, as crazy as that fucking sounds. What about you? Of all the Halloween films that you were old enough, how did you feel? Did you enjoy them all when you walked out or...
Oh, God, no. No.
Do you remember your reactions walking out?
Yeah, I remember when I walked out of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, because that was the first Halloween movie I saw in the theater as well. And I remember thinking that I didn't hate it. I just didn't feel... I mean, now I don't... I think it's dog shit. Yeah. But my first initial thought was, that's the explanation?
Right, like the Man in Black was such a bad payoff.
It was just so awful. And then H2O, I saw 3 times in the theater, but that's
you enjoyed it to a certain extent at the time.
No, but here's the thing. See, it's a misconception. I saw it 3 times in the theater because I worked at a theater.
That's right. You did. That's right.
I did. I didn't pay for any of that. So what ended up happening was that I saw it. The first time I saw it was with Bruce. Yeah, Bruce and I go back, way back. We've known each other nearly 30 years. So the first time I saw it was with Bruce and my brother Neil. And Neil was the one that introduced me to Halloween when I was a kid. So, and this was big because, Jamie Lee Curtis is back and blah, blah, blah. It was a big deal. So I was able to get me and a guest in for free. And then whoever's after that has to pay. So there was that. And then I saw it, I saw it. I was waiting for I think I was waiting for a ride home from the movie theater, and my dad wasn't gonna, he was gonna be late or something like that. So I just went and saw Halloween again to kill 2 hours, or an hour and a half or whatever it is. And then the third time I saw it with Brian, my buddy Brian, who hadn't seen it and wanted to see it. So, I mean, I didn't loathe it or anything like that. It's not like I, walked out there and go, my gosh, the fuck is it? But I did not like the movie. It didn't look like Halloween. It didn't feel like Halloween. The joke that I said at the time, because at that time, Dawson's Creek was an actual show and a very popular show, is that I turned to everybody and I said, this looks like Michael Myers walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek, and not in a good way. And you had Michelle Williams in there as well. Wasn't she in Dawson's Creek? I think she was, wasn't she? So, I mean, I mean, it wasn't so yes, it's like, oh, Dave, must have really liked it because he went and saw it, 3 times. Yeah, but I didn't pay for it. I didn't like it. It was killing time. It was like, hey, do I go see fucking, what the hell else was out in 1998? I don't know. Do I go see Lethal Weapon 4 again, or do I go see Halloween again? I'll go see Halloween because Brian wants to, it was just that kind of thing, If I go see a movie 2 or 3 times and I've paid to see it 2 or 3 times, that's because I like it. Yeah, exactly. So
Resurrection, how'd you feel?
Dog shit. Thought it was fucking dog shit. And I went and saw the first Rob Zombie's Halloween with my 60-something-year-old mom. You can imagine oh, Skull, fuck you, bitch! I'm like,
well, here's the one thing I'll say this about Rob Zombie's Halloween is this, because I agree with you. When H2O came out, that was the beginning of slowly the transition of Michael Myers in pop culture. It hadn't quite reached Freddy Jason status. You know what I mean? Like, when you would go into stores like Hot Topic and Spencer's, you're still getting the Jason and Freddy stuff. You might see Michael pop up here and there. When Rob Zombie did his 2 films, he at least kept the character name of Michael Myers in pop culture consciousness. If he didn't do those, I don't know, would we be at the plateau now of where we're at with Michael today if Rob Zombie hadn't done that? Because love it or hate it, he kept the name within, still fresh in people's minds. And of course, the merchandise that was in the stores and people buying the T-shirts and the soundtracks and shit like that. So that's the one good that I can say that Rob Zombie did, because I just find it amazing that this character is 41 years old now, and now he's just reaching his peak of popularity.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I remember it. I was a young kid in the 1980s, but we remember it when after Halloween 2, Michael was non-existent. And during that time, Jason and Freddy tore it up at the box office, embedded themselves as the 2 most iconic horror characters in motion picture history at the modern era. At that time, Michael was an afterthought. It was Freddy, Jason, Freddy, and then Michael. And then below that, you'd go like Hellraiser and all that kind of stuff. And then in the mid-90s, that even though Michael made a bit of a comeback with 4 and 5 in the late 80s, the slasher genre was on. It was dying. And of course, you had Halloween 6 in 1995, but Scream revitalized the horror slasher genre. It was like, oh, look at this, but from this perspective. So it was very interesting, and all of a sudden, slashers were cool again. And H2O made its debut in 1998, which really was all about timing. It wasn't that H2O was it was a fun movie for the average horror fan at that time, because it introduced Michael Myers to an audience that had either had forgotten about him, were not even aware of him, okay, and didn't care about him, and it was written, or at least co-written or half-written by Kevin
Williamson.
I thought he was a script writer.
He was one of the writers. I don't know if he's credited as the main, but I believe he's one of them.
But there's definitely a screamy-ish vibe to it, in terms of that. Sure. In terms of that pacing and that fun. It's the scares that you go, oh, that was good. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like a haunted house sort of ride. And it was perfect timing for that, because it reintroduced Michael into the pop culture in a way that people had totally forgotten about. And then they mistakenly waited, well, they should never have been one, but they mistakenly waited 4 years before they did Resurrection. And by the time they did Resurrection, the slasher genre was dying again. But the mark that H2O made, and especially, the name too, H2O, great marketing. Jamie Lee Curtis, was coming off of the success of True Lies a couple years prior to that. And I mean, so yes. And then of course, Zombie just kept it there,
right.
So, and because of the internet and because of the, and keep in mind that Michael had H2O, good or bad, Michael had H2O, Michael had Resurrection, Michael had Halloween in 2007, Michael had Halloween in 2009. And Jason and Freddy
one
had
film each.
One film each, but even prior to 9, nothing.
Right.
So it was the reverse from what was happening in the 80s.
Yep.
What happened to Freddy and Jason in the late 90s and early 2000s and all through, the 2000s essentially is what happened to Michael in the 80s. And that is
what
why
we're going through right now with Michael, this is what the 80s went through with Freddy and Jason.
Exactly. 100%. And you introduce Jason in 2009. It did well opening weekend, then fell off. I don't think it's that great of a movie. I think that there could be more to it, but whatever, it is what it is. And then you have the Elm Street film. It didn't do anything. So you have two, essentially, you may like it, and that's great, but the general consensus is these are two movies that most people don't like and they're flops. That's why there were no more.
Well, here's the thing with the 2009
and we've got Michael again.
With the 2009 Friday, I will watch that before watching Jason Takes Manhattan because I own it.
Right.
Jason Goes to Hell and Jason
Right.
X. I will say that if I had what I did, I bought it. So I did enjoy it enough to include it as part of my collection over Manhattan and the later part of the original run.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's great. It's so crazy when I'm sitting here.
Crazy.
Like,
Michael
wow.
is.
There's
never a Michael Assance.
To be this popular.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Because you have to remember something back. And Dave's not fucking exaggerating, folks. Back in the day, man, I literally, and I've said this before, I felt like I was the only kid in town who liked Michael Myers. So, if I would go to a horror movie growing up, and it could be any horror movie in the 90s, because that's when I would, I'd go with an older person who could get me in. Didn't matter what the movie was. And then you would meet people possibly at the theater and maybe make a connection and develop a friendship and all that shit like that. And, that's how you met your people who liked some of the similar things that you did. And even then, Michael wasn't really talked about much. It would be Freddy and Jason would be primarily the two main topics.
Well, listen,
talk about.
The way to look at it is now I know they're making a Candyman movie right now. They're shooting it in, Chicago. Okay, great.
I remember that.
But over the last 10 years, think of Candyman. Think of how popular it hasn't been. Candyman was. Do you think about Candyman? Do you care about him? No, that was Michael Myers in the 80s.
And even 90s to a certain extent.
Super chat from Frank Riker. Thanks, Frank. D&T, the moment you knew you wanted to be in your profession. Moment I knew. I don't think there was ever a moment for me where I knew. I just knew that I'm a theatrical guy. I started as an on-camera actor before I got into the voiceover, and voiceover it's acting. I mean, it is, contrary to popular belief, it is acting. But I did commercials and I did some docudramas. There's one docudrama that was on YouTube. It was a Sherlock Holmes one, and I'm in that. But I don't know if it's on there anymore. But anyway, and then I broke my teeth. I want to get back into the on-camera acting, actually. But that being said, I don't think there was ever a moment where I knew I wanted to be in my profession. It's just sort of, it calls to, you gain these interests at a young age. And I knew that I was good at doing voices. I knew that I was good at performing and acting. And, it just sort of, you just find I got into the entertainment industry almost 20 years ago now, in 2001, after I left college. And one thing led to another, and here I am. So I don't know, Tony, was there ever a moment where you knew, or it's just always been sort of a calling?
I always look at it occasionally from time to time. This is me. I don't know if you guys can see it. I know it's going to be very hard to see, but that's me in 1982. I was 3 years old. This was for my 3rd birthday. And behind me, wrapped in a gift, is a big-ass giant Big Bird thing that my family got me, which apparently from the stories that my mom and dad told me, this was my grandmother's camera that I literally picked up and never put down. They assembled that Big Bird thing, and I never got on it, never wrote it. I just basically started snapping pictures, and I don't have any memory of that. My closest memory to that part of my life would be about when I was 6 years old, and again, taking the camera, which eventually my grandmother just gave me her camera because I would always be taking pictures and shit with it. So, I always, say that I was born to do this because for whatever reason, just snapping photos was just always fun for me. And then, as obviously I got older and started to take it more serious, and especially in grade school, like junior high, I took, photography class. In fact, I showed everybody hanging up on my wall over here, the very first photograph that I ever developed in a dark room and was graded for was of the World Trade Centers.
That's right. I remember you showing me that.
Yeah. Never knowing what would happen.
That's right.
It's just kind of crazy to think that that's the first photograph that I ever developed for a graded assignment. And I just, like something just clicks and you love it and you just do it. And that's that.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know if I consciously knew this, but in the 1980s, I used to have a Panasonic tape recorder that I would record my voice on. And I was a big fan of Jim Varney. And Jim Varney, I see him in his, as Ernest, right? Seeing him as Ernest or, in the commercials. And I would not necessarily pretend to be Ernest, but I would mimic him. And I'm like 5, 6, 7, and I would record myself doing all sorts of funny voices and talking to the tape recorder. And this is like, 30, 35 years ago. And I would play it back and just laugh at myself, and just laugh at the, and I would do that up and right into high school. I was doing, high school announcements, and I would host, shows at, assemblies. And then when I went to college, and I studied radio, TV, and film. Yeah. And I had my own show on the college radio show, and I would do all the, you definitely have IDs.
A radio voice.
Yeah, I've been told
classic radio voice.
I know. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But classic radio voice that you don't hear anymore.
But what's funny is that I've always been in that. I've always enjoyed speaking and using my voice and creating characters, and so I don't think there was ever a moment. It just sort of, I've always been doing it. I've always loved doing it and loved performing. It's why I want to get more back into. I did stand-up comedy for a little bit when I was in college, and that was fun. I had a ball doing that. Yeah, that's right, folks. Fucking
yeah, I never even knew I could make money as a photographer until junior high, when I started to do part-time work in the summertime. When school would let out, I started doing real estate and cars photography. And like, if people who grew up in the 90s, you guys remember, real estate agents would have those booklets of the houses that are going on the market, or same thing with cars and like the used car traders and stuff like that. So, I had a paper route, and I would deliver to a guy who had a car lot, and he's like, "Hey, I heard you like taking pictures. You want to earn some extra money and, take pictures of the cars for me?" Sure, why not? And then his sister was a real estate agent. She's like, "You want to take photos of the houses for me?" Okay, sure. And this is when film ruled the world, and everything had to be developed with film and shit. So,
do you want to know what my first professional came before?
Okay. I wouldn't even call that professional. I guess you could.
Yeah. No, I just was thinking this off the top of my head. My first professional promo. I don't want to call it a trailer because it was just a promo spot. But my first professional trailer was for The Descent. But my first promo I think I ever did was for Dave Chappelle's Block Party. From 2006. Really? Yeah, I got it. It's shitty quality. It's shitty quality.
No, it's Chappelle. But
I got it. Yeah, I got it. I should post it.
Bitch.
I should post that. I should post it. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, it's an ad advertising the DVD release in conjunction with some contest that you could. I don't know. He was coming to Toronto or something or whatever it was. But yeah, that was like 2005 or 6 or whatever it was. But anyway, yeah. So there's not really a moment, but you just sort of it's there, you know. Okay, let's get to some questions here.
A few super chats that came through.
I did. David Lee Barron, thank you, David, says, don't you hate it when people leave their cart in the middle of the aisle at the grocery store? So annoying when you find them 5 aisles down. Yes! It's so annoying.
I'm that
Spatial awareness. You're that guy.
I am that guy when, okay, let me put that in context. I am that guy when we are having a big family dinner and we're doing the sauce Italian, because I come from a big Italian family. And
I want to be invited over to your place for dinner.
No, you don't, man. Let me tell you, Italians, dude. Listen.
Listen. I had a lot of Italian friends in college. I know.
Well, this is why you and I get along so well, because in my family, we are traditional Italians, meaning we are always trying to overtalk each other in a conversation. And no one ever gets offended. No one ever gets upset, because that's just how it is, you know? And my family is mixed between being from New York and from Connecticut. In that way of life up there, and talking loud and talking fast and over talking each other, it's been my whole life. So I've never thought of it as a, rude thing until I came to the South, and I've had to put myself in check because people would be offended by it.
Right.
Not knowing that I did it intentionally. But yeah, when I'm shopping for a family meal, I am that guy, because I'm like, why are you sending me? I'm like the last person you should be sending, because I hate shopping to begin with, but I am doing it anyways, and I'm sending shit all over the place. And yeah,
I gotcha.
Keeping my cart there. So in context, that's the reason why.
That's funny. I know there's a couple of super chats here. Let's take a couple of non-super chats just to kind of bulk it up here a little bit. Let's see. Michael Meyer says, do you think it would be better if they mentioned the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises? Do you think it would be better if they mentioned the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises instead of not mentioning him at all? Yeah, I think we talked about this. Yes, I think it was a mistake. Yeah. I don't see how not mentioning Heath's performance, not actually verbatim, but mentioning him is somehow honoring him. I think that was absolutely... I understand what they're doing. I understand what Nolan was saying, but I think that's crap. I think, what are you talking about? No, you mention him. You absolutely mention him. You don't pretend like it never happened. No, I think it was dog shit. Let's see here. Scroll down. Let me see if I get somebody. Horror fan Cogger. The only character that is worse than Ray is Sartain. I actually like Sartain. I just don't like what they did with his character. I like. I don't like what they did with his character. Ray, I think, is a worse character because Ray's useless. He is there to be killed. Sartain was Michael's doctor. Sartain worked with Loomis, under Loomis, not literally, although that would be funny. All right, Doc. No, but there's so much there you could have utilized with the Sartain character that you didn't. Yeah. Anyway, super chat from PC Pierce. Thanks, PC. Weapon of choice in a fight to the death, no guns. In a fight to the death, weapon of choice. I'm going to go with...
I've been boxing my whole life. That's why I box. I'm not great at boxing, but I know how to box. I mean, I get in there with the boys who are actually taking it seriously. So throw fists, don't be a chump and use a weapon. Use your fists. You might get a few lumps, but you'll walk away.
My weapons are not here. I have a machete, I have a katana blade, and I have a big fucking Rambo knife, which a lot of you guys have seen on my channel. So one of those, I guess.
However, I will say, I may not be a professional boxer, but the other day I finally cleared it. I'm trying to get to my goal of 300 pounds on a press, bench press, free and clear of anywhere between 4 and 5 presses. And I got to 275, 4 presses, on my own, unassisted, and the 5th press was spotted. They basically had their hands underneath, for those who don't know what spotting means.
Yep, great.
Last press. So I'm trying to my goal is to get 300 pounds free and clear. But yeah, I train at a boxing gym, and there's guys in there who are taking it to a whole serious.
Oh, of course, 100%.
But I go in there with them, and I'll spar with them, for a minute or two before I'm like dying and whatever.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
funny because I run so much, and I think I'm conditioned. Right. And when you actually go in a ring with a boxer who's doing this for real, you realize how unconditioned you really are.
Oh, yes. Oh, 100%. 100%. 100%. I absolutely agree. I've been running for 24 years. I've been running since I was 16 years old. My resting heart, I don't know what it is right now, but at my peak in my early 20s, my resting heart rate was 47 beats a minute.
Damn.
And I've been lifting weights. I stopped there for a while. I just got back into it about a year or so ago. So I've been getting back into that as well, doing the bench and all the shit that you do. And and now that I'm 40, I'm no longer doing it to look cut and ripped for the girls at school.
It for strength.
I'm
mainly.
doing it for strength and the fact that I'm 40 now, and it's like, I want to look like, he's 40. He looks good,
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. William Long says, my favorite part of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was seeing Brad and Leo's combined star power. Really reminded me of Pacino and De Niro in Heat. Don't see that too often.
Do you want to talk about this, or do you want to hold off because it's new and some people may not have seen it?
Well, I'm not going to go into depth. I would just say that I don't know if I would compare it to Heat, but I would definitely say that
I get the comparison.
Yes, I get the comparison. I will say that Leonardo DiCaprio is one of my favorite working actors. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt, I've never been a real fan of, but I will say that Brad Pitt won me over in this movie. Yeah. So I think Brad Pitt.
You don't like Snatch?
I'm just not a fan.
I love Snatch. Snatch is such a good movie.
I just think that Brad Pitt is so fucking handsome that I just see Brad Pitt. It's like it's like George Clooney. It's like looking at, or back in the day, Clark Gable, or it's like, you're so fucking handsome that it's not that Leo's not handsome, but Leo's acting, it transcends his handsomeness. Brad Pitt is just too fucking handsome that every time I see him in a movie, I just see this. It's all I see is this.
Well, yeah. Well, no, because
it's all I see. I'm not saying he's doing that. I'm just saying that it's the archetype. He is he's James Dean. He's Clark Gable. He's so fucking handsome that I can't get lost in the character, because every time he's on screen, I just see this handsome man.
Yeah. No, well, because I've had this argument with uneducated movie people who sit there and go, well, DiCaprio didn't get, good at acting until after Titanic, when he was just nothing but like Romeo from Romeo and Juliet and Teen Bopper in the 90s. Right. I said, well, wait a second now. Are we forgetting about This Boy's Life, Basketball Diaries, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Marvin's Room,
100%.
all before Titanic.
And let's not forget,
Juliet.
He was nominated for an Academy Award for What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Right. So, people should have been smart enough to know that this dude was trajecting to be one of the greatest actors of all time even then. Yeah, okay, he had that little teeny bopper moment with Romeo and Juliet and Titanic, but you take those two out of the equation and you look at his filmography going back to This Boy's Life. This, The Beach was, kind of, has its fans and it doesn't. But from This Boy's Life and eliminate Romeo and Juliet and Titanic, this dude, his performances are amazing.
And that's just it. Like, when you think of Leonardo DiCaprio, like him or not, that he will go down as, yes, he's a handsome guy, sure, but he's going to go down as one of the great actors of this generation.
And maybe of all time, depending on what he does going forward.
I don't know about all time. I mean, he's you got some pretty hefty names up there.
Oh, I know.
But definitely he will go down as one of the great actors. Brad Pitt will not, in terms of acting.
He'll just go down as one of the greatest looking guys of all time.
100%. He's James Dean. He's Clark Gable, right? He's I don't know who else. Yes, that's my point. So, but when you look at Pacino and De Niro, they will and are both one of the great actors of our time. So, yeah. I mean, that's a bit of a difference there. But yeah,
that scene at the diner between Pacino and De Niro is one of the, God, it's brilliant. So iconic. Anyways, get to the other super chats. I don't want to.
Yeah, no problem. I want to take a couple of ones that aren't as well. Let's see here. Oliver Mercer says, "Hey, Dave and Tony, what are your thoughts on the true events regarding Elm Street? A guy couldn't sleep and was worried that someone was going to kill him, but oddly enough died from one of the nights." Well, yeah, I mean, that is very common knowledge that Wes Craven took the idea for Elm Street. I believe in the 70s, there were some articles in the Los Angeles Times of Cambodian, I believe it was Cambodian, refugees who had taken up. They were in the States, and they had come from these awful environments, and obviously they were having nightmares and suffering from massive PTSD. And this is the 70s. And complaining of their nightmares. They weren't complaining of somebody in my dreams trying to kill me. It was just awful. And a few of those people actually died in their sleep, presumably from maybe a nightmare. They may have died of a heart attack or whatever it is. So Wes thought that was that was an interesting concept. Yeah. It's creepy and interesting concept. And then of course, Freddy comes from a childhood memory of his, right? Yeah, yes, where he saw this old creepy man who used to walk up and down his street when he was a boy. So I mean, look, that is where a lot of stories come from. They are things that you experience in your own lives that you either take direct influence on or take bits and pieces of and create something, original out of. So I think it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. Let's see here.
Emperor Tiberius, he asked, he said, "Tony, you're from Connecticut. I was born and raised here myself." Cool, man. I was born and raised in Hartford. And grew up in Enfield and South Windsor. You didn't say what part of Connecticut you were from. I think you were starting to, and you stopped. So, yes, I am from Connecticut. That's why I wear my Patriots shit. I will always be a Pats fan because I grew up there. But I think you were starting to say something, dude, and I think you got yourself cut off. But the film addict, the question that he asked us, which was right below us, and I know he's asked it a couple times here. "Hey, Dave and Tony, your thoughts on critics giving negative reviews saying Joker is too violent and not hopeful, ? Personally, for me, that criticism is dumb because what? Because what do you expect? Because what do you expect a happy story? LOL. Yeah, dude, it's funny. Me and Dave were talking about critics before we went live, and there's reasons why I think Dave would agree to this, that we don't do movie reviews. I'm not a movie reviewer, and I'm not taking anything away from people who do this as a career and make money reviewing movies. But I've said this all along, and I will continue to say it. I'd rather be in the game creating stuff. Whether you like what I'm creating with my photography, that's fine. Everything is always subject to opinion. Dave, I think, could agree with this because he's there writing this story now. It's Me, Billy, which is, a follow-up to Black Christmas. He's creating shit. I think that there's those of us who want to create and be in the game, and then there's the cheerleaders on the sidelines who want to review shit, but don't want to get their hands dirty and get criticized for creating content. And they want to take the safe route. And that, to me, is what a film critic is. So I take a critic's review for almost nothing. I don't give them any value. I think, in my opinion, but
I think there is value to a film critic. I really do. But the problem is that today, because of the internet, everybody when you used to listen to people like, Roger Ebert or Gene Siskel or, read certain, they were so knowledgeable on film history. They were so knowledgeable on the filmmaking process. They were so knowledgeable on, symbolism and the nuances of storytelling and what may or may not make a good movie or not. At the end of the day, opinions, personal subjective opinions do come into play. But today, and I'm not talking about anybody specific, I'm just saying that today you know, very few critics and pundits have a wealth of knowledge of film history or understand the filmmaking process. Not everybody, but it's just like everybody thinks their opinion matters. Well, it made me feel this way. I posted about this on social media, coincidentally enough, is that some of the general consensus from people who didn't like Joker was that it didn't make them feel very good. Well, yeah, but that's not the bar for which you judge a movie. It didn't make me feel, I mean, you can judge it that way, and I guess if it doesn't sit right with you, well, then I guess you're not gonna like it. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean anything. It's like the people that say, well, you know, if you take this out, and if you take that out, or if you take that out, or if you take that out, it's not really a good movie. You know, it's like saying, well, if you cut off Mike Tyson's leg, he's not a very good boxer. Well, yeah, but he's got his legs. Right. So you have to judge him on him. You know, you don't judge him on what you think should be there, or what, I mean, you can say that I think maybe they should have done this, but you have to judge it for what it is, not for how it necessarily, the whole idea of it making me feel, you know, it's a hopeless look at society, right? And how well did the fact that they make you feel like shit actually tells me they've done a good job at executing the point of the movie. That they've done a good job at creating this dystopian sort of, you know, outlook, at this character. I think a lot of people expected this movie to be, I don't know, it's a
cater to the PC culture that we live in today. And you can't make things that make you feel uncomfortable because that's not what we do anymore. You know, you take a movie like The Clockwork Orange. That movie is disturbing all the way around. I mean, look at the shit that they're doing to people in that film.
Yeah.
But it's considered one of the most iconic films of all time that Stanley Kubrick did. I just want to clarify something here, and I'm going to use John Campea as an example. He's a critic. He gets paid for this, but he's also a creator. He gets in the game. He writes books, okay? And he's created content. He's written movies. He directed movies. He's filmed shit. He knows what it's like to be in the game to create something, but he's really good at reviewing shit. Whether I agree with him or not on viewpoints, he knows what he's talking about. He's educated and he delivers it. Those types of critics I respect because they're willing to get their hands dirty. I'm talking specifically about those who wouldn't know how to fucking properly expose a photograph or, you know, properly frame a scene, but yet you're going to sit there and review and tell me this is the reason why you don't like this movie when you have no idea what it takes to make a movie. No, I don't put any value into that. But people like Campea, he knows what it takes because he's gotten his hands dirty. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yeah, no, it does. It does make sense. I don't think anybody should have to like a movie or like Joker if it didn't make you feel good. But you have to be able to articulate why it didn't make you feel good and why that is why you're giving it a negative review. Because the point of the movie is to make you feel that way. Yeah. So, you know, I just don't think that it should be like, it's not like Halloween 5 where the point of the movie is not to make me feel like it's dog shit. You know what I'm saying? That's not the point. The point, I think people have forgotten that Joker is a movie about the rise, the fall, and the rise of somebody with mental illness, and they're using the Joker character as the archetype. They're using the Joker character to get your asses in the seats, and they're painting this dystopian sort of, you know, look at this kind of, you know, but there's many different characters they could have used to tell this story, but they're using the Joker character because it works. Oh, it's the Joker. Oh, that fits so well. And I think people didn't expect it to be sort of as real and as sad and depressing as it is. I mean, watch Taxi Driver. It's sad and depressing. It's a real fucking depressing movie, but nobody thinks about it because you're not using the Joker, right? You're just using some guy, Travis Bickle, I think his name is, that, you know, we've never heard of, right? But you take the themes and the idea of that and you put it to the Joker, it can be tough to watch because people are expecting something else. I'm not saying that everybody doesn't like the movie for that. The Film Addict is right. I have seen a pattern over the last number of weeks, and it just played here at TIFF for its North American premiere, and some of the reviews coming out of TIFF I've been reading these reviews thinking, what the fuck? So it didn't make you feel hopeful for the future? What the hell? What kind of critique is that?
That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't make me, like that's not, okay, but that's not how I would go in where my bar is of whether I liked a movie or not. My bar is, what kind of a movie is it? It's this kind of a movie. Okay. All right. That doesn't mean I'm going to like it, but okay, it's that kind of a movie. Okay, it's dark. Okay,
I could tell
disturbing.
from the
how well do they execute that, and how much does it affect me? I mean, if it affects me, making me feel sad, I don't know, somehow that makes me think they've done a hell of a job. I can't wait to fucking see that movie.
Yeah, and you could tell from the trailer alone that the PC culture, who's easily offended today, they're going to be disturbed by this movie, because this is not what they want to see anymore. They want, Joker, Jack Nicholson, or, even Heath Ledger. Heath could have even gone even darker with that, and I sort of kind of wish he did. Yeah. But, it's early 2000s. What was that? 2008, 2009? 8, something like that. Yeah, geez, damn, we're already at 11 years with that shit. Yeah. Wow. But yeah, I could sense that was brewing. But to be honest with you, my gut feeling, and I know Dave and I are going to do a show on this, I have a feeling this is probably going to be my favorite movie of the year.
It might be.
Just by what I'm seeing, and just the type of movies that I enjoy, like I mentioned here a moment ago with A Clockwork Orange, I think it's going to have that type of feel to it when I walk out of there, that I'm going to be like, that's a fucking movie.
See, this is the difference between film critics like Roger Ebert or people that just have an opinion.
Right.
Right? Like, if you're walking away from a movie saying, I didn't like it, I'm going to give it a negative review because it made me feel sad, you have no business being a movie reviewer. But that's what happens with the internet, that everybody and their fucking uncle thinks they can jump online and my opinion matters. I'm a movie reviewer because my opinion matters. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have a degree in film, that you have to have a wealth of knowledge, but if you want your opinion to matter, if you want your opinion to carry weight, it must be an informed one. And that's why, watch those old shows of Roger Ebert and Gene, Siskel talking about the movies and reviewing them. They know their stuff. They know their shit. They know the
game too, and done shit.
Of course, but they know the art of storytelling, and they know the process, and they're able to say, well, it didn't work because of this. I understand that this is what they were trying to do, but it didn't. But you watch it, it's like, now that's somebody that knows his shit. That's somebody that's giving an informed opinion. Somebody online going, thought it was shit. Like, what the fuck? I'm a movie. I'm Rotten Tomatoes certified. Yeah, and your site is, Billy Bob's Movie Reviews. Like, I mean, it doesn't,
Do you ever watch their old reviews on our genre, man? They hated our genre.
Oh, yeah, and I get it. I get it. But you know what movie Roger Ebert did praise? Halloween. And why did he do that? He hated the horror genre, but why? Because he's an informed guy. He knows his shit. Anyway, it's a whole. We should do a fucking video on that. But anyway, let's see if we can get through here because I got to get going soon. Let's see. Yeah, I'm doing it. K316, thank you, K316, says, hey, Dave, could you imitate Joe Pesci doing the character of Leo Getz in the movie Lethal Weapon? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think I could do a Joe Pesci. He's kind of, what is Joe Pesci like? He's like, hey, he's kind of down there. Like, he's up here like this.
That's close.
He's up there like this. That's how he is. He's up here. He's kind of nasally. What, you think I'm funny? What, I amuse you? That's not, that's Goodfellas, but nonetheless, yeah. He's kind of up here like this. That's how he sounds, but I couldn't do an impression. I haven't even tried. Frank Riker, thank you, Frank. A super chat gift for Zach Axiola, question at 9/11. Zach Axiola at 9/11?
I think he was just letting you know that there was a super gift.
Cool. Sorry, Zach. I see one here from Zach. He says, I loved It Chapter 2, but I feel that the reason Stanley gave for killing himself in the letter he wrote sends a bad message to people considering suicide. Your thoughts? Well, I don't know. No. I don't think it's going to. I don't think anybody. I don't believe. I'm not of the camp. I do believe that there is influence, but I'm not of the camp that just because Stanley in It Chapter 2 essentially sacrificed himself, took himself off the board so that it could be killed, and it painted this suicide in sort of a noble way, which was an unusual creative decision to make. Fair enough, because suicide is a very serious thing. And certainly to paint his suicide as a noble thing rather than a tragedy, although it is tragic at the same time, is interesting. But I don't think for one second that now everybody out there is now all of a sudden the suicide rate's going to go up because, people are going to start, committing suicide because of what happened in It Chapter 2. It's the same thing that I don't think that violent video games create terrorists or anything like that. No, I think the creative choice is the issue. Was it the right choice to make for the story, not for how it's going to affect other people? I found it interesting. I still don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, I don't know. Tony, do you think that having Stanley's suicide as a noble gesture rather than a tragedy, do you like that? Or do you think that's kind of weird?
Read the book and you'll understand why. That's all I can tell you about that.
Then
if you read the book, you'll understand.
Okay, sure. But that doesn't mean that it was the right thing to do. But I guess if it was in the book, then they were being true to the book.
It was in the book. I'm just saying people should read the book and you'll understand why. But
there you go.
I agree with what you said, and I'm also answering people in the chat room because I know a few people were asking me some questions, so you can continue to take super chats because I can just answer in the chat.
Sounds good. Grave Warmer. What's worse, Salacious Crumb drunk at your wedding or Freddy as your clergy? I love Salacious B. Crumb. I fucking love that character. I am dying to have a little Salacious Crumb puppet. There's guys out there that make them. They're not cheap, folks. They're not cheap. But I would absolutely love to have a Salacious B. Crumb puppet. Not the little ones. I'm talking about an authentic, genuine, life-size, realistic puppet that I could have here on my channel, and he would just sit here and my hand would be in his mouth and you'd never know it, and I'd be like, I'd say something that I think is hilarious, and he'd be like, he'd just laugh at everything I'd say. I'd be like, right, Salacious? I desperately want that puppet, man. I'd fucking have so much fun with that. Thanks for the super chat, Grave. Did I get them all? Grave,
we get them all? I think I answered everyone's question that was asking me questions.
Yes, we did. Okay, let's see here. We'll go for a little bit longer.
Yeah, because we're going to be on a little bit of a delay, guys, until I think next Wednesday, right?
Next Wednesday.
So
yeah,
a little extra tonight.
Yep. Zach Frederick says, the scene on the first Halloween where Laurie was knocking on the door and screaming for help was inspired by a true event where a woman got stabbed and was screaming for help and no one came out. I heard something about that. Yeah, I got to read up more about that. I remember hearing something about that.
I think the more you dive into a lot of horror movies, you're going to realize that 100%. A lot of these writers and directors are pulling from real life stuff
100%.
And just changing it around a little bit so that it's not directly like Leatherface. Ed Gein.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Let's see here. Daisy.
Gain.
I think it's Gain. I think it's Gain, isn't it? Ed Gein? Daisy McMillan says, I think we need a light shined on mental illness. Oh, we absolutely do. 100%. I 100% agree. I mean, listen, whether you're in Canada or the US or anywhere in the world, mental illness is a real, legit thing. And there is absolutely, I mean, I get it. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but obviously I have experience with it in my own family, and it's a tough thing, and it's certainly
I lost my cousin to mental illness, so believe me, it's a very sensitive subject.
There you go. The light.
Yeah,
should continue to be shone on it. I absolutely agree with Daisy. Movie Chat and More says, if you love movies, it's simple. Oh, you must be talking to somebody else. Bobby Hall, the great Bobby Hall. Not that Bobby Hall, but another Bobby Hall. Says, Dave and Tony, do you think it's messed up they killed a real name in the original Friday the 13th? They could have used a fake one. A real name? Do you think it's messed up?
Yeah, no, I know what he's talking about. Hold on a second. I've heard this, and I just haven't.
Refresh my memory because I'm drawing a blank. You do that while I'll get another one here. Emperor Tiberius says, Tony, I'm from Glastonbury, and East Hartford. Now I live in Middleton, and it's like living in Haddonfield down here. There's even an asylum here to boot. Sorry, I didn't make myself clear earlier. Very cool.
Yeah, he's talking about there's a old mental hospital. Now I know part of that old mental hospital is no longer you can get access to in Middletown, but I used to go urban exploring there and take pictures and whatnot.
Very
but that's
cool.
Middletown has depending on where in Middletown you're at, there's definitely, it's an old historic New England town with a lot of old buildings and whatnot. It kind of is in the clusterfuck of traffic from Hartford and heading to the shoreline. So, but yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, we'll go to 9:45. I got some things I got to do, but another 10 minutes. Mohammed Camber says, Dave and Tony, favorite best Fincher movie? Has to be 7 for me. Yeah, 7's up there for me. Zodiac.
Zodiac is
funny
one of my
one
favorites.
is up there for me. And he's great.
I actually like Zodiac better than 7. And
do you,
because I really like Zodiac, the story. I like everything around. Of all the real serial killers that I've spent time on, I've spent time reading stuff on Jack the Ripper and Ted Bundy, but Zodiac is the most that I have invested my time in. And, I think for that reason alone is the reason why I like Zodiac over 7. Not saying 7's not a great movie; it is a great movie, but I really liked Jake's Gyllenhaal's performance, Robert RDJ's performance, and Ruffalo's performance, and Anthony Edwards. He was in there as well too. It's just really solid movie. I like the direction they went with. They obviously went with more of Arthur Lee Allen as being the quote unquote killer. Killer.
Yep.
There's obviously been people who have debunked that with DNA testing and shit like that, especially now in 2019 with forensic science and what they're able to do. But the Zodiac story, man, is always just fascinated me.
Oh, really. It's great. Yeah, we got to do a show on that. We absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Super chat, PC Pierce. Thank you. What does Trump playing Freddy Krueger sound like? You guys are Trump.
Let's see here. It's great.
If you're gonna do this, you need to put the claws on. If you're gonna.
I don't know. It's back there. It's back there. It's in the. It's not around here.
So it'd be like, hey Jennifer, this is your big break. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
How about Nancy? I'm your boyfriend in Trump's voice.
Well, I guess he just says, I'm your boyfriend now, right?
I'm your boyfriend now, okay? I am your boyfriend, a tremendous boyfriend, a huge boyfriend now.
Oh, damn.
Guys.
Oh, it's amazing. It's great. It's wonderful. It's the way I am, okay? Hello. Melania, shut up.
Chastity Smith says, at Dave McRae, I heard something about Robert Englund wanting to see Kevin Bacon.
Here we go.
Are you serious? Kevin Bacon by Freddy and be Freddy and Nightmare on Elm Street. Your Tony's thoughts on good idea. You must be new to my channel. This is not new information. I'll quickly say this. He has been talking about this for the last 2 or 3 years. This is not new. I think Kevin Bacon is far too old to be Freddy Krueger. Even Kevin Bacon is 61, folks. Okay. Maybe 20 years ago. Those are my thoughts on that. I think if they're going to reboot A Nightmare on Elm Street, they need to go with someone younger.
Wasted youth, them youths.
The two Utes.
Slumber Party Massacre 1, 2, and 3. You know what? Actually, I'm going to hold off on that because I was going to suggest Slumber Party 1 to Dave with a duo. Because for those who are new to the channel, Dave and I on this show that we do, we like to do like a double feature of like some classic. And I thought Slumber Party would be good teamed up with something. I haven't quite thought of what would be another good film that we could talk on the stream for that, but maybe hold off on talking about it right now because Slumber Party would be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, that would be fun. I got to brush up on. I got to watch them again, but that would be fun. I do agree with that. David says Kevin Bacon should play Freddy, Jason, and Michael. Why the hell not?
Right. Beef Cove, Tony. When is Gronk coming back? He's not. He's retired. Gronkowski. So yeah, there you go. Dave McRae, I'll play Freddy. Aaron Keller.
Yes, Aaron. Hey, Aaron Keller's a great Freddy cosplayer.
Yeah, he really is.
He's great. Movie chat and more. Who would be actor to play Marty McFly? Who would be a good actor to play Marty McFly? You're saying? I don't know.
I don't want to see Back to the Future remade in my.
No, I don't either. But in terms of an actor that is Marty McFly-esque, I don't know.
Anybody but Justin Bieber.
I don't know.
Honestly,
I
I don't know.
somebody that conveys a sense of youthfulness, innocence, nerdiness. You know, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure they're out there.
Tree. That's a legit one. I like that. What's your favorite Tom Cruise movie? Damn, that's hard.
Tom Cruise.
Like he was like a definitive part of our childhood in the 80s with Top Gun, Cocktail. I almost said The Color of Money, but not Color of Money. What was The Color of Money, but the sequel to The Color of Money that he's the pool hustler with Paul Newman. Somebody help me out, man. Oh my God, what was the pool? No, it was The Color of Money because the hustler was
right.
The Paul
I think so. I think
and
so.
He did The Color of Money.
You know, there's so many good ones. I mean, Born on the 4th of July. You know, that was great. Even I like Eyes Wide Shut. You know, Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. A Few Good Men. Yeah. And
then you can go back early 80s with Risky Business. My God, it's such a great movie.
Yeah.
And even The Outsiders.
Risky Business was shot here too, I think.
Yeah, The Outsiders was an ensemble cast, but still, you know, a great movie. You know, you can go to a current shit, obviously, with Mission Impossible, Edge of Tomorrow. And he's just, you know, you say what you want, whether you like him or not. The one thing I respect Tom Cruise on is that he will give you 150% in his movies. And he doesn't half-ass shit. He does his own stunts, and it's not. It's as real as it's gonna get. You know, I mean,
right.
We all know he hung from a fucking airplane legitimately as it flew around. I mean, just thinking about that, he hung himself from a fucking airplane as it took off. And like, I hate flying in general. This motherfucker is gonna strap himself outside of a fucking airplane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Balls of steel, Mr. Scientology Cruise.
I mean, outside of, you know, him personal life, I get it. You know, he's a bona fide movie star. He's a great he's a great actor. I believe him in every role he's in. I do. Let's see here. J.K. Ranson Review says, have you guys had a chance to check out the fan-made film Friday the 13th Vengeance? It has a lot of 13th alumni in it. I had a lot of fun with it. It's on YouTube. I have not. No, I have not. Tony, have you? I have not. The only one that I've seen is Never Hike Alone.
Yes. Michael Anderson says, Gene Siskel had a knowledge of film and was a so-called pro, but he said slasher movies in the 80s were made by sexist men that hated feminism. The online people can be more reasonable. Well, Gene Siskel loved to stir the pot, and I don't agree with him on that, but I understand the sexual undertones that he's talking about in especially a lot of the real cheap horror movies. I disagree with your thing there. The online people can be more reasonable. I completely disagree. The online film fandom space largely is a cesspool of toxicity. But there are great people like you guys that come here each and every week, and you guys understand the value of an informed opinion and an opinion, and you try to, it's great. But you know as well as I do that you get people that, you know, just it's a not just fandom. The whole online is just one big fucking toxic piece of crap. There's so much toxicity out there that you gotta weed through the carnage to find the good ladies and gents like you guys. It truly,
and I hate to say this, but it is a generational thing, and it really
Manhammer AR-15. I didn't dig myself out of any hole. The online space is a cesspool of toxic garbage and crap.
It's true, and let me explain something to you guys here. When we were growing up, and I shared briefly what this story a few moments ago about going to the theater, you know, and finding people that you could relate to when it comes to like horror films, right? So if I was going to see a horror movie with an older buddy of mine back in the early 90s where I wasn't old enough to get in, you would be connecting with people and, you know, exchanging phone numbers and talking on the phone and like, hey, you know, let's go meet up here for a pizza and just talk about horror films. There was no fighting. There was no bickering. There was no division between people, and like when you found someone who shared the same passion and love for horror films, man, it was like you gravitated to that and they became like your real close buddies. And this whole evolution of where we became, what we've evolved to, I just sit here and shake my fucking head because life was nothing at all like this 20 years ago. You know, it was not like that at all.
Right. And to, sorry, I just want to say to AR 15, AR, what's his, he's a regular. He's great. Manhammer AR 15. Yeah. To his point, the reason why I said, except for you guys, is because so many people don't like, it goes to my point, right? Is that in this day and age, you actually like feel you have to add nuance to your conversation, because if I just say the world of toxicity or the world of online fandom is so toxic at times, there are people who are like, well, are you saying I'm toxic? No, I'm not saying you're toxic. I'm speaking generally, right? I'm not talking to anybody, specific, but that's what happens is that you have to say, except for you guys, because And I genuinely mean that, because the chat rooms, I can't speak to anybody else's chat, but the chat rooms we get, like 99.9% of the time, except, the odd troll that comes in, have been great.
Our chat
have been
rooms
cordial, and I think that's fucking
we can
amazing.
disagree with each other, but not in the... It's like what I just described to you guys. Like I said, we would
100%.
disagree with each other growing up, but we weren't fighting with each other. Like me and my best buddy, I'm sure you can relate to this with Bruce, and my best buddy, Devin, we've been friends for 20 years. If Devin turned around and started cussing at me and swearing at me, I'd be like, bro, what the fuck, dude? Like,
can you imagine?
I'm talking like in a violent way, like what it's like online. When it's general conversation between me and him, I'd be like, oh, fuck you, dude. He'd be like, oh, fuck you right back. Oh, you're a bitch. Yeah. No, you're a bitch. But we're not doing it to violently come after each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
The problem is now people are violently coming after each other, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm getting yelled at by a dude who fucking lives 1,000 miles away from me, who thinks I'm a piece of shit. Right. I've never even met the guy in my entire life, and I'm like, all right, I'm supposed to take you seriously? I've never even met you. That's my whole point. It's like, we didn't do this to each other back in the day. We would disagree. We could call each other, you're a little punk, you're a little bitch, and then at the end of the day, all right, let's go drink a beer, or if we weren't old enough to drink a beer, go get a slice of pizza.
Right. Frank, thanks. I'm not offended. It's totally true, though, right? Like, the world of this space, and, it's new to me. Like, I've still only been doing this like this for 2 years. I'm used to being on the other side of the mic, in terms of just doing my shit and not putting my face out there. And it really is amazing that there's some wonderful people in this community. And when I say, I'm talking about the broader, but man, there's a lot of toxic. It's because generally what's happened is that you've given a voice to people who don't understand that. And I hate to say this, and I say this a lot, but it's totally true. And it's not that I don't rant and rave from an emotional place too. We all do. But at the end of the day, if you really want somebody to care about what you have to say, it's got to be informed. And I don't mean you have to be, a doctor and have a degree in shit. I just mean that you have to have all your ducks in a row when you go to a debate, or you go to make a point, or it has to be an informed opinion. I don't care, about, oh no, we've lost Tony again. I don't know what happened. We've lost Tony. Anyways, I'll finish my point. It's important that if you want somebody to care about your opinion and your views and your thoughts because you're passionate, I think that's fucking awesome. And I really do. But you gotta have, you gotta show that you've thought about this, right? And you're like, well, I don't like it because this. Or if you say to me, you know what, Dave? I love Halloween 5. It's my favorite fucking movie in the entire franchise. And you say, here's why. Because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. And I can go, well, you know what? I don't agree with you, but you've thought hard about it. You've thought long about it. I respect that. Because you come to the table with evidence. I still think it's dog shit because of this, and this, because it didn't work for me. But you say this, and this worked for you. So that's awesome. it's frustrating when I try to have conversations with people say, no, you just fucking shit. I think it's great. Why? Well, it's great. I can't, okay. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, guys, I think Jason attacked Tony again. Holy shit. Fucking incredible. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, that is going to do it for this episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Thank you for joining us once again. Episode 39. Our next episode won't be until Wednesday night, hopefully, the 25th, I think. I think it's the 25th of September, because I'm going to be busy next weekend, so tune in for that. That'll be a good show. You'll know as the days roll on. But I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank you again for all the super chats that help support the channel here. You guys are awesome, and I'm sorry that there haven't been videos up on my channel as of late. I've just been really busy. I'm hoping to knock out a video, maybe 2 this week at some point, because there's a couple of things I do want to talk about and say. But between the It's Me Billy script, which we're neck deep in right now, and everything else that's going on, it's been a bit tricky. But don't worry, I am still here. Follow me on social media. If you're not following me on social media, all the links are in the description. And yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week. And again, thank you for tuning in and supporting the channel, guys. You guys are amazing. We'll see you on the next episode or in the next video. All right.